Hey everyone! I've always been a huge fan of horror games.
But Resident Evil Village, or Resident Evil 8, was boring to me.
Except when I'm not. Regardless, there's always been one set of horror games that I've always been a fan of. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at
Five Nights at Freddy's is an indie horror game series turned franchise made by indie developer Scott Cawthon on a software called Click Team. It was Scott's final attempt at being a game developer after his previous games were poorly received.
See, before game development, Scott was an animator for his own games and an animator for a Christian film studio. It was these passions that led Scott to create games such as The Desolate Hope and Chipper & Sons Lumber Co.
However, Chipper & Sons was rated very poorly when it was released. The beaver characters were described to be uncanny and creepy. And so Scott took this criticism and, after a lot of personal uncertainty, made a game that would make his small name known throughout the world.
After Chipper & Sons' poor reviews, Scott wanted to give everyone something that they would really be afraid of. A horror game. One that took away your ability to go anywhere, leaving you stuck in a dimly lit office as horrors slowly close in.
And so, Five Nights at Freddy's was born, taking the uncanny feeling of a classic pizza place and its animatronics, like Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza, and making them more horrifying as they move around at night. You play as Mike Schmidt, a night guard at said pizza place, armed with only a limited power system, a few cameras, and buttons to close the left or right doors and turn on the lights to the doors.
It was, admittedly, a simple premise. But despite how simple it was entirely new to the genre of horror. Normally, horror games would require you, the player, to make actions that end up witnessing the horror. You had to go down that dark alleyway. You had to make that step forward to get the jump scare. If you simply did nothing, nothing would happen. No scares, no horror, and the story would never progress. But FNaF twisted this premise. This time, the horror came to you.
Simply doing nothing wasn't an option anymore. You had to do something. If not, you'd get jump scared. But how exactly would you do these things? How would you keep the horrors out? Doors. Four animatronics are present: Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the namesake, Freddy. All with slightly different ways of movement. In terms of AI, they're all the same, using movement counters that use the AI value of your character to see whether or not they would move, but each had a different way of getting to you.
Bonnie and Chica were basically the same. They'd slowly make their way to the office with different doors on either side being their corresponding doors. However, Foxy and Freddy both worked very differently compared to Bonnie and Chica.
Foxy was the only reason you had to chug the cameras. Sure, you could use the cameras to find the location of the other animatronics, but it wasn't required. For Foxy, however, you had to check the cameras to keep him from attacking you. Freddy is almost the same as Chica, minus the fact that you can barely see him on the cameras. When Freddy's out, it's very difficult to see him, not to mention you couldn't even see him in the doors.
Freddy also had two ways of killing you. One, which was more common, was the power outage. If you ran out of power, the lights would completely shut off, and one of your doors would be illuminated by Freddy singing a melody before jump scaring you. The other was when if he made it to the door and you neglected to keep him out, he would obviously jump scare you.
And with that, FNaF was complete. It was Scott's final attempt at being a game developer. It was his last shot.
And oh boy, did it have a bang!
Finally, it was released on August 8th, 2014. It blew up. Everyone began playing it. Popular YouTubers like Markiplier, PewDiePie, everyone.
What especially helped was how new the game felt. It came out at a time where so many horror games were just the same over and over again. What also helped was the small amount of lore that Scott built into the games. Randomly, you could find newspaper clippings of murders happening at Freddy's, the phone guy, the player's guide, talking about a mysterious bite of 87, and the occasional appearance of it's me flashing on the screen and Golden Freddy. Also, you know, weird dead kid moanings coming from the animatronics, but that's, you don't worry about that. Yeah.
It was this unknown lore that grew the fan base to an even larger extent. It wasn't just a bunch of people watching each other play the games, it was people trying to figure out the story of FNaF as a whole.
After seeing all of this praise, Scott knew what he had to do. Clearly, he still had it within him to make games, and good ones at that, well received. He had to make more. He had to make the fans happy, and he had to build on this loose story he had built in the first game. And so he made...
She is such a bad stove. I hope they shot at that robot, man. I'm not even...
On November 10th, 2014, 3 months after the first game was released, with the community of theorists being a major part of the community now, Scott knew he had to expand more on the story of FNaF, while also expanding on the gameplay from the first game.
Scott already had the groundwork for the lore: Murder at Freddy's, Bite of 87, 5 Kids Missing, Golden Freddy, and several animatronics that went to kill the Night Guard, but I don't know why. In this game, Scott would introduce a killer in purple, more dead kids, and explain why the animatronics were killers.
There had already been a theory that the missing kids mentioned in the first game had been stuffed inside of the animatronics. I mean, it made sense. You had 5 kids and 5 animatronics, one of which being a secret one that very few people ended up seeing. Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, Foxy, and of course, Golden Freddy. Not to mention the whimpering and moans coming from the animatronics when they would move around or be right at your doors. And so Scott took this idea and built onto it with the 8-bit minigames within FNaF 2.
FNaF 2 introduced the main way of storytelling, with small, Atari-style 8-bit minigames that added to the lore. Save Them, Foxy Go Go Go, Give Gifts, Give Life, and Take Cake to the Children. Save Them allowed the player to follow the puppet, a new character in FNaF 2, around the FNaF 2 pizza place with a rare chance to see Golden Freddy, as well as the new Purple Guy character. Through the pizza place, the player would find several dead bodies in gray. Give Gifts, Give Life has the puppet place animatronic heads on the gray dead bodies. Foxy Go 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 has the player take control of Foxy as he runs from the stage and finds kids. On a later attempt, the player will find Purple Guy again, smiling, as 5 gray dead bodies replace the happy children. And Take Cake to the Children has the player walk around a small room as Freddy, as a child is murdered outside the room by said Purple Guy. It was these games that helped flesh out the story. That Purple Guy was the killer.
That's why I never trust grapes.
At least 5 children had been killed, and were given a second life in the animatronics through the puppets.
But what about the gameplay?
I'm glad you asked. Scott had to do something different with the games. More animatronic threats, new game mechanics, and more ways for the animatronics to get in. So, Scott added and removed.
No doors, 2 types of animatronics, a character that stole your power, a camera that required you to use your flashlight, a character that required you to use the cameras, and a mask.
First, the office. As mentioned, there were no doors to keep the horrors out. The office was a lot more spacious, with 2 comedically large vents on the walls and a large entrance way in the front. The player was equipped only with flashlights that they could use for the hallway and the vents. And that was it. Next, the animatronics. The first type are the toy versions of the animatronics. Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and Toy...
Mangle. The remains of Toy Foxy.
Balloon Boy, and the puppet. Both Toy Chica and Toy Bonnie work the same as they did in FNaF 1. Toy Chica makes her way towards the office and appears in the left vent. Toy Bonnie does the same with the right vent. Toy Freddy simply makes his way down the main hallway. All 3 can be warded off using the player's mask. Balloon Boy makes his way towards the office through the left vent. If he gets into your office, he removes the player's ability to use the flashlight for a period of time. How do you get rid of him?
Mask.
Mangle travels into the office through the right vent with garbled radio sound when they get close. If they get into the office, they will hang from the ceiling and randomly kill the player. How do you get rid of him?
Mask.
The puppet is the only animatronic that works slightly different. On camera 7, the player will find the prize corner with the option to wind a music box. If the music box ever runs out, the puppet will quickly make their way to the office and jump scare the player.
There was only one reason to ever use the cameras, similar to Foxy in FNaF 1.
There's also a second type of animatronic, the Withered. animatronics. Wooded Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, all with amazing designs, much freakier and uncanny compared to the toys animatronics. However, all the withers can be warded off the same way.
Mask.
Except for Foxy. To keep him away, you have to flash your flashlight down the main hall.
And that's all the characters, except for the secret ones.
Like Golden Freddy in FNaF 1, there are 3 other characters that have a chance to show up any night. Golden Freddy makes a return with a wither design, as well as 2 Shadow animatronics, Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy. Shadow Freddy has a chance to appear when the wither animatronics leave the starting room, and Shadow Bonnie, aka RWQFSFASXC, can randomly appear in the office and crash your game.
And that's it. That's the gameplay. Now on to...
Hey Shinji, do you know Springtrap?
I don't understand.
5 Nights at Freddy's 3.
Scott had reached a point in FNaF where he didn't want to keep making FNaF games anymore. He wanted to go back to his simple life and making games for himself, his kids, and his community. He had already gotten enough money, so he just had to end it with one final game.
Scott still had to keep things fresh with the 3rd installment. Plus, FNaF 2 was a prequel. Sure, Scott could go even further back after Phone Guy mentioned Fredbear's Family Diner, but what if the next game played into the horror and the lore with a haunted house?
Fazbear Frights, a horror attraction based off of the horror of the lore of the series. A mysterious purple figure, haunted robots, and dead kids. And best of all, the people running the attraction found a real animatronic, a ruined Bonnie animatronic.
The gameplay doesn't change much. Now you're in a very green office with a vent and a door entrance. With you are a camera system and audio lures, alongside a vent system that can be closed. You have a maintenance panel, which is your way to refill your audio lures, fix faulty cameras, and reset ventilation when it goes out.
Welcome to your job. Here's some audio, the cameras fail occasionally, and the ventilation, sometimes cuts out, so you might not be able to breathe sometime. Have fun!
As for the animatronics, there's only one, technically. The ruined Bonnie. It slowly makes its way to the office through the vents and carefully hiding from cameras, while still being somewhat visible. The ruined Bonnie's actions are almost human-like, less than that of a regular animatronic.
In the attraction, there were also a lot of ghosts and phantoms. The phantom animatronics, Freddy, Foxy, Chica, Balloon Boy, Mangle, and the puppet all make a reappearance in burnt, moldy green forms. Each has a different way of appearing though.
Freddy will walk across the window of your office. If you look at him for too long, he will duck down and disappear and jump scare you shortly after. Foxy will randomly show up in the corner of your office. If you look at him for too long, he'll jump scare you. Jacob will appear on the cameras inside of an arcade machine. If you stare at her for too long, she'll disappear and jump scare you. Balloon Boy will randomly appear on any camera. Staring at him for too long will result in a jump scare.
Although all these animatronics can jump scare you, with a few exceptions, none of them actually kill you like in past games. Instead, they affect your maintenance, causing you to spend precious time away from the cameras to reset ventilation, cameras, and audio.
There are only 2 phantom animatronics that don't jump scare you, Mangle and the puppet. Mangle will randomly appear on the cameras. Staring at them for too long will cause them to make a loud, garbled radio noise. Annoying? Yes, but it doesn't take away from too much compared to the puppet. If you find the puppet standing on camera 8, don't look for too long. Staring at it will cause it to flip down your camera as it blocks your vision, playing a jarring noise that keeps you from opening any panel or doing anything.
But there's still one animatronic that could actually kill you. The ruined Bonnie. You can of course use audio lures to lure him away, or close the vents to, lock him out from the vents. And that's it for gameplay. The only thing that's missing is the post-night 8-bit minigames.
After every night, the player will find themselves controlling one of the 4 original animatronics at the first FNaF location. Each night, an animatronic follows Shadow Freddy into the back rooms, where the animatronic is deconstructed by the one, the only,
Purple Guy!
On the 5th night, however, the player takes control of a grayed-out crying child as it makes its way to the back room, finding the purple guy trapped by 4 other grayed-out children with a golden bodysuit laying in the ground. After chasing the purple guy, he will run into the golden bodysuit, putting it on, before being crushed inside and bleeding out. See, throughout the game, we've been presented with these old training calls from Phone Guy. In there, he mentions spring-locked suits that can turn from both animatronic and costume by pulling the animatronic parts to the side when in costume mode using springs that, well, lock. However, if moisture is present in the suits, the spring locks will snap and move all the animatronic parts back into position for the robots. But after a spring lock failure at a sister location, the suits were to be locked up and shut away permanently. As you could assume, the Golden Bonnie suit that Purple Guy put on was a spring lock suit, which snapped shut onto the Purple Guy. However, the Purple Guy managed to survive the spring lock failure and is now trapped in the ruined Bonnie suit, which is now called Springtrap.
And that was it. The killer was trapped. And after night 5, it was revealed that Fazbear Frights burned down with Springtrap inside. The Purple Man was finally dead. But since it was Scott's last game, he had to include a good ending.
By completing small 8-bit minigames within the nights, BB's Air Adventure, Minkle's Quest, Chica's Party World, Stage 01, and Glitch, finding all of the kids and giving them cake, you unlock a secret 6th minigame, Happiest Day. The puppet makes their way to the front of a birthday party, finding 5 kids, 4 wearing the original animatronic masks. Upon placing down the final cake, the last of the 5 kids puts on a Golden Freddy mask before they disappear as their masks fall and the balloons fly up.
The spirits were free. The killer was burnt. And we got to learn a little bit about Fredbear's Family Diner with the Stage 01 minigame. In the minigame, we got to see Golden Freddy and Spring Bonnie performing on stage together, both as Springlock suits. So that's why Golden Freddy was never able to move, because he was a Springlock. He wasn't in his animatronic state, he was in his costume state. Golden Freddy was Fredbear. And finally, we had all the answers we've been looking for. And the series could finally end. Thank you, Scott.
But some people didn't like the gameplay and jump scares, so Scott made...
Is that the Byte of 87?
I think it's about time I finally reset the power. So, here we go. So I'm gonna prop myself on this door. No reason, just felt like it.
Five Nights at Freddy's 4, also known as the final chapter. Everyone was gearing up for the true ending to FNaF, as Scott released teasers of nightmare animatronics. Fans were ecstatic. The new animatronics looked so much more horrifying and violent, with their torn metal and sharp teeth. All fans had to do was wait until Halloween of 2015. Sure, the game would take longer to release, but the wait would have to be absolutely worth it. It was released 4 months earlier, on July 23rd. As for the gameplay, it was nearly identical to FNaF 1. You play as a small child whose identity is debatable.
We'll get to that later.
The player, as a small child, must fend off the original 4 animatronics in their nightmare forms, using flashlights and doors that refuse to stay closed.
These things close?
4 areas are present in the bedroom: the bed, 2 doors, and a closet that the player can move to, making it the first game where the player isn't completely stationary. Both doors work the same as they did in FNaF 1. Nightmare Bonnie and Nightmare Chica will both make their way to your room. Nightmare Bonnie will appear on the left, Nightmare Chica will appear on the right. Behind you is the bed. There, small Nightmare Freddys called Freddles will spawn. By shining your light at them, they will disappear, keeping Nightmare Freddy at bay. And then there's Nightmare Foxy. If you don't check the correct door he's at with your flashlight, he will move into your closet for the rest of the night. There, he will have a few stages before he attacks. All you really need to do is chalk on him from time to time and make sure he doesn't attack you. But here's the funny part. On his last stage before he attacks you, if you go there, he will have his head slightly poking out. And if you shine your light, there's a loud roar noise that he makes, and it scares the absolute hell out of me. Oh my god, watch the stream because it is funny.
And that's it. Except for 2 other animatronics, Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear.
Both work the exact same as the previous mentioned nightmares. Only difference is that their speed and how they work like Freddy and Foxy. If you choose the wrong door to check, they will play a laughing sound as they appear either on your bed, like Freddy, or in your closet, like Foxy. From there, you just need to find them, get rid of them, and continue on. But wait a second, Nightmare Fredbear looks a lot like Golden Freddy. And we just talked about that chances are Golden Freddy was Fredbear. Between each night, the player gets to play 2 minigames. An 8-bit minigame where they go around their neighborhood or go to Fredbear's or whatever, or a fun with plush trap minigame that if they're successful on getting plush trap onto the white X in the amount of time that they're given, they will advance 2 hours into the next night. In the 8-bit minigames, you play as a crying child as he makes his way through the week leading up to his birthday. In the first minigame, he's trapped in his bedroom. In the second, he walks around the house until a kid in a Foxy mask, presumably his brother, scares him. There's also a girl's room with her disassembled mangle. In the third, the crying child is abandoned at Fredbear's family diner. It is revealed that he's afraid of the animatronics as one in a Springlock Fredbear costume approaches him and he cries. There's also an Easter egg where you can see a purple guy helping someone put on a spring bunny suit. So, In the fourth minigame, the crying child walks home from Fredbear's, meeting a kid along the way. One talks about her finger trap plush trap, another makes fun of his fears of the animatronic, the third talks about how animatronics come to life at night, and that they'll hide your body if they get you. A fourth child has toy versions of the classic animatronics, minus Foxy, with Toy Chica missing her beak. And the final child holding a balloon. When the crying child gets home, he can turn on the TV which reads 1983 before getting jump scared by a child in the Foxy mask. In the fourth minigame, the crying child is locked in the parts and service room as he cries. And finally, the fifth minigame. The crying child's birthday is finally here. The party is finally here. And instead, what we end up seeing is the crying child getting mocked by a bunch of older kids wearing the original FNaF mascot costumes, as they're mocking him for his fear of the animatronics, before they lift him up, carry him to Fredbear, place him inside Fredbear's mouth, and, well...
Hey guys, I think the little man said he wants to give Fredbear a big kiss. On 3, 1, 2... Was that the bite of 87?
So, that was it. That was the story of Five Nights at Freddy's. We had the answer to the bite of 87, the thing that started the entire lore debate of the series. We had the murderer, the purple guy, now burnt to a crisp. Everything had ended. Yeah?
Hey, idiot. You forgot something?
Who are you?
Your guilty conscience. Here to explain how you're wrong. See, in FNaF 3, by beating Night 6, the player is presented with a newspaper clipping. But by lighting up the clipping, you can find Springtrap in the background. Moreover, FNaF 4 also shows the copyright date on the TV to be 1983, meaning it's the bite of 83, not 87. Also, there's several secrets within FNaF 4 that make the games technically a dream.
How?
Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy are both shadows on the wall in Fredbear's. The crying child's Foxy plush has its head ripped off, which is why it's out of order in FNaF 1. Mangle is found in the crying child's sister's room, torn apart. Toy Chica is missing her beak when the crying child walks home before night 4. Springtrap is just a Spring Bonnie finger trap. Purple Guy isn't hiding bodies in animatronics, he's just helping employees put on the Springlock suits. Golden Freddy is just Fredbear. And, most compelling of all nights before FNaF 4 end with a grandfather clock. The same clock the crying child has outside of his room. So, what do you think of that, mate?
I think you forgot one more thing.
What?
The best FNaF game. FNaF World.
No.
With the Five Nights at Freddy's series finished, Scott wanted to take a step back it'd make games like some of his past games, an RPG. But Scott wanted to add FNaF characters to appease fans. Thus, FNaFWORLD was made, a brand new take on FNaF, within a turn-based RPG formula with fully 3D graphics, including fully 3D overworld, and... never mind.
The game came out in a horrible state, far from what fans were told or even expected. The game was entirely incomplete with weird transitions from the 2D overworld to 3D fights and character select. To say the game was poorly received would be an absolute understatement. Fans just tore it apart.
No one was expecting a FNaF RPG. When it was first announced, there was a mass fan outcry, yet some fans were still hopeful that the game was a fake-out. But when the game was released on January 21st, 2016, fans were treated to a rushed, unfinished, unpolished, convoluted game, even still after several updates, causing there to finally be fully 3D graphics all throughout the world, and generally better gameplay. A lot of it is still very convoluted, requiring players to no-clip through scenery without any hints.
This isn't horror water, this is unfinished RPG water!
However, in more recent times, FNaFWORLD has gained a cult following within the community, with the changes to gameplay with fully 3D graphics, Halloween update adding more characters and minigames, and popular streamers replaying it such as Astral Smith and David Baring, giving it new life.
But with Scott expanding on the games with an RPG, alongside fans being unhappy with the idea that all the games were just a dream, Scott needed to expand even more with the lore, the series, and money. With the books. With fans not accepting the idea of dream theory, Scott had to make a way to explain a lot of the weird details about FNaF. Who was Purple Guy? Why did he kill the kids? And what did Fredbear mean by "I will put you back together" at the end of Night 6 in FNaF 4? Scott would have to explain all of this with FNaF's first and only novel that Scott originally titled Five Nights at Freddy's The Untold Story, before switching it to Five Nights at Freddy's TheSilverEyes.
17-year-old Charlie Emily, daughter of co-owner of Freddy's, Henry Emily, arrives to her hometown of Hurricane, Utah in 1995, or Hurricane as I've learned it's called, to witness the launch of the scholarship dedicated to Michael, a kid murdered at Freddy's. She meets up with her old friends and decide to go to abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza at an abandoned mall. There they meet Dave Miller, the night guard. One of Charlie's friends, John, decides to randomly mention that he saw a guy dressed in a golden bodysuit the night Michael died. Charlie begins to remember her past at Hurricane and the disappearance of her brother when she was a child. So, her and John go around the town to Charlie's old house and the old Fredbear's family diner. Meanwhile, Carlton gets kidnapped by Dave Miller wearing a golden bodysuit. Eventually, everyone realizes Carlton is missing. They return to the abandoned Freddy's and find Dave Miller in the spring bodysuit alongside Carlton trapped in a spring lock suit and the animatronics walking around trying to kill everyone. After playing FNaF 1 IRL, Charlie does a funny and activates the spring locks within Spring Bonnie's suit, killing Dave as he's dragged away by Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy, revealed to be none other than Michael.
And then Carlton's dad finds out that the man known as Dave Miller was actually named William Afton, co-owner of Freddy's alongside Henry. Purple Guy is also William Afton. And that was it. Now we had an actual basic reason of why animatronics went after security guards and adults. It was because previously an adult security guard had taken away their happiest day. That's why they hated most security guards and tried to kill them. And that was it. FNaF was over again. And then 10 days later, Scott released SisterLocation. God damn it!
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Similar to FNaF 2 being the turning point in FNaF where Scott went fully into the lore, SisterLocation was the point where Scott decided to sort of jumped the shark while also expanding on world building in the most confusing way possible. But we'll get to that later. First, gameplay.
SisterLocation was the very first FNaF game where you weren't bound to just one singular location. Whereas FNaF 4 introduced movement throughout a single room, SisterLocation introduced the idea of moving just completely throughout an entire location, an entire building.
In the game, you work as a technician at Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental, a rental service for animatronic characters Funtime Foxy, Funtime Freddy, Ballora, Baby, and Funtime... never mind, Chica's dead. You make your way through 5 nights of gameplay, each different from the last. Night 1 has you do basic tasks where you light up animatronics and then shock them and then you call it a day. Night 2 has you hide under a desk before making your way to the breaker room, fending off Funtime Freddy while resetting power to different parts of the building. And other buildings. Night 3 has the player do maintenance on Funtime Freddy before being scared by Funtime Foxy and having to fend for their life from mini arenas, Ballora's little henchman, while being trapped inside of a failing springlock suit during Night 4. Finally, Night 5 has the player return for their last day where they deactivate Baby and make their way to one of 2 rooms, while being guided by Baby. One is the Scooper Room, which was designed to remove the endoskeletons, where the player finds a comedically large spoon. The player then gets scooped as he sees a mound of eyes, wires, and a clown mask staring at him named Ennard. A cutscene plays and the player sees themselves in a mirror, with their eyes now replaced with purple robotic eyes. The player has been replaced by Ennard.
Oh god damn it, not again.
Room 2, however, can be accessed by ignoring Baby's instructions after beating the game's 8-bit minigame Def thing. In the minigame, the player plays as Baby as she delivers cupcakes to children, but through careful platforming, the player can get to the end, pick up an ice cream cone, then make all their way back to the front and deliver it to a small child before the child gets clawed into Baby. Upon ignoring Baby's instructions, the player will find themselves in the private room. There, they will have a FNaF boss battle with Ennard using normal FNaF 1 gameplay. However, in the room, the player can find a Fredbear plush and a keypad. By typing in 1983 or 1983, the monitors will switch to images of the FNaF 4 gameplay house.
However, regardless of if the player beats the entirety of the last survival Ennard boss fight room, Ennard eventually makes their way to the player's house and apparently just like into them, I guess. I don't know. So that was it. FNaF was final. One part of the FNaF games that I completely forgot to mention is the custom nights, partially because it's just a bonus night. It's just to give you like extra little tidbits to do. So I didn't really care to mention them because if I did, it was just repeating information. But essentially, custom nights allowed you to change the AI levels of different animatronics and make them however you want to. You can make them as hard or as easy as you want to, with the obligatory max mode of each version of the custom night to come out.
FNaF 1 had 420 or 2020-2020 mode. FNaF 2 had 1020 mode. FNaF 3 didn't really have a custom night, but it did have Nightmare mode, which was just max AI overall. FNaF 4 had a similar thing where it introduced Nightmare, a darker version of Nightmare Fredbear, with generally faster AI, making for a essentially 2020-2020 mode. And of course, FNaF World didn't have any of this because it wasn't a regular FNaF game. But the custom night, or max mode, was always an essential part of FNaF since day one. But SisterLocation didn't have one until December 1st, 2016.
Yay! An early Christmas present! Oh.
10 different animatronics against you in the Ennard boss fight room, the private room. Hearing this, you may think that Baby and Ennard would be part of the custom night.
No.
Ballora, Funtime Freddy, Yendo, a secret character, Funtime Foxy, Bonnet, a new character, Biddy Babs, which only appear for one night, Electro Babs, which are Biddy Babs but electrified, Lil Bits, a secret character, Mini Rena, and Mini Rena 2. Same Mini Renas, but different, I think. 2 secret characters, 1 new character, and 2 repeats with slightly different mechanics alongside 3 regular animatronics. No Ennard, no Baby. Oh yes, you could rationalize it by saying, well, Baby's an Ennard and Ennard escaped. But the other fun times are also in Ennard, despite being present in the custom nights. And then there's the minigames. After completing each challenge, the player is presented with cutscenes of a man walking home. Each time the man does this, he slowly decays, turning purple. Eventually, the man decays so much that he pukes out some metal spaghetti, Ennard, before collapsing. Baby then repeatedly says he won't die before the man rises up again. This decayed purple man is the player character, who got scooped and is now alive. And then, after being the hardest challenge of the custom night, the player gets this final cutscene.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
The player is Michael, talking to his father, Springtrap, aka William Afton. Now, not to be confused with Michael from the books, who ends up being Fredbear, which wouldn't make sense, and we'll get to that much later in the video. But keep that in mind. This is a completely different Michael to the Michael in the books that becomes Golden Freddy. This is Michael Afton, who is human, maybe? Question mark? We play as the son of the killer of which being Springtrap, aka William Afton, who is still somehow alive even after Fazbear Frights burning down. Oh, also, Baby has the soul of Michael Afton's sister, given evidence by the fact that Michael finds her, and the post-night dialogue being between William and a child talking about wanting to go to Baby, and also being the one child that Baby eventually grabs in the 8-bit minigame.
So that was it. FNaF was over. Again. Except for the fact that Scott planned on making the singular book that he already had into a trilogy. Ennard was also loose in the world gameplay-wise, the killer Springtrap was alive, and Michael was walking around as a rotting corpse, so there's that.
No intro, we're getting right into this. Charlie is now in college. She delved into the same work that her father did, robotics, but she keeps having mysterious visions of her brother who is taken by Afton and a door. Then Clay Burke comes by, tells Charlie that a bunch of people that look like her are dying with spring lock wounds on them. She, Jessica, John, and Clay go on a bunch of wacky adventures and investigations that eventually lead them to a cave. There they find William, still trapped in a spring bodysuit, controlling the twisted animatronics, which are just blank husks of like the Funtime animatronics that bury themselves at night and then use sound illusion discs to make them look scary, which is a whole new can of worms. It's these twisted animatronics that have been killing off the people that look like Charlie. Charlie and co are chased into the cave where Charlie and John find the door Charlie had been seen alongside William, telling Charlie that he didn't take her brother, he took her. John pleads for Charlie to leave the door and escape. Eventually she does, until a twisted animatronic, Twisted Freddy, captures her and kills her as they get crushed by falling debris, because the building that they're on, which is Henry's old house, is falling down. I think, I forgot, it's been like a year since I read the book. The book ends with Charlie reappearing a few weeks after her death, in the flesh.
While this was going on, Scott was working on the 6th mainline title of FNaF, his magnum opus. But it wasn't going to come out for a while, so Scott gave everyone a little Christmas gift, a small little 8-bit minigame similar to some of the joke games that he had made prior. Like when SisterLocation, he made a joke about it being released early, and it was actually like a reskin of one of his old games. Scott released this joke title on December 4th, 2017, for absolutely free. All it was a simple little mini game where you can design your own pizza at a little 8-bit pizzeria, and then you throw it at a couple of kids. Then, the levels start progressively getting harder, Shadow Freddy briefly shows up, things like that happening, and then...
What the frick? The frick going on? Oh! Scott bamboozled us all. God damn it, Scott! This was the 6th installment. A game where you build your own pizzeria with catalogs to buy from, survive nights in an office with massive vents, and then salvage animatronics for income. But make the nights harder. This game is amazing. First off, it's free, giving everyone the opportunity to play it. It also has 7 different endings, which we'll get to later, and a fun self-made difficulty curve. I love this game. And just because I won't be talking about the entirety of it, just because there's so many mini games, so many like tiny little itty bitty secrets in it, I highly encourage you to go play it right now. It is completely free on Steam. I think it's also free on mobile. I could be wrong about that one. But just make a Steam account, download Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, and enjoy it for yourself. It is really fun. Anyway, with that said, on to the office and salvage sections, since the whole pizzeria sim element is pretty self-explanatory. The office portion is simple, no timer from 12 to 6. Now, in order to leave, you have to complete tasks. At your disposal are 3 tools: audio lures, motion detection, and silent ventilation. You also have access to the AC unit, which you can turn on and off. By leaving it off for long enough, the temp will rise to 120 degrees and you will pass out, ending the night. Silent ventilation makes the AC quieter, allowing you to, quote-unquote, hear the animatronics as they move through the vents. Motion detection shows the location of the animatronics in the vent map. The audio lures will just keep the animatronics away. And that's the office section. Completing this and surviving will move you to the next portion of gameplay, the salvages. 4 different animatronics. Ennard, now with a burnt Freddy mask, Baby, now in scraps, Lefty, a black Freddy, and... Afton, also known as William Afton, now missing his arm. Molten Freddy, Scrap Trap, Scrap Baby, and Lefty are the game's lineup of horrors to be faced. The salvages place you in front of each of these horrors as they slowly move as you lift your paper to mark their movements as a tape plays. The only thing you have to defend yourself is a taser that can be used to reset the animatronics if they move too much. But of course, using them too much will decrease the value of the animatronic. So, welcome to the interview. How may I help you? And that was the game. Now on to the endings. 7 different endings. First, if the player does things in the pizzeria, but neglects to collect all the salvage animatronics, they will be fired by the man in the cassette tape. Secondly, if the player doesn't do anything for the entire game, they will get the Certificate of Mediocrity. Third, if the player collects a hard drive in the form of a purchasable egg baby, and then reset the monitor to the office portion, the player will receive a cutscene of a taped man from the salvage sections talking about the events of the past games, including Afton's murders and his deconstruction of the OG animatronics in the FNaF 3, ending off with a promise to bring them all to the location. This happens while images of Lefty, the SisterLocation scooper, and the audio lore devices from FNaF 3 and Pizza Sim I'll show on screen. Also, there's a extra slide that isn't shown, but you can find it in the code that Scott left in, that shows Molten Freddy with the security tags of Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Ballora present inside. Meaning, Molten Freddy is the remains of Ennard after Baby left the amalgam, meaning that Baby is Scrap Baby, and Molten Freddy is Ennard but minus Baby, so it's babyless. On Lefty's little
blueprint slide. We also find out exactly what Lefty is. A machine meant to lure, encapsulate, fuse, transport, and extract. Spelling Left-E. Possessing navigation sensors, sensory output for a bracelet, and a soother in the form of a music box. The only animatronic that we know of that can be soothed through a music box is, of course, the puppet. Also, the audio file in the game is presented to us as HRY223. HRY sounds a lot like Henry from the books, who was the father of Charlie and co-founder of Freddy's. Charlie, of course, being the first child killed, similar to the puppet. The spirit possessing the puppet, hopefully, from our lore standpoint, also being the first child to be killed by Afton.
The fourth ending is blacklisted. By getting over 50 risk, as found by YouTuber and Twitch streamer Astral Spiff, in the pizzeria section, the player will get blacklisted from ever owning a business due to the amount of risk and lawsuits they have caused in this week alone, because they got, 50 risk. Fifth is bankruptcy. If the player manages to lose all their money at any point in the game, the player will lose and all of their save data will be erased. Temporarily.
And now to the two biggest endings. Completion and Lore Keeper.
This was the ending to the series. Again. Scott had to tie up loose ends of the lore and give it a big ending with a nice, beautiful bow tie. The Lore Keeper ending required the player to fully complete 3 minigames: Fruity Maze, Midnight Motorist, and Security Puppets. Starting off with Fruity Maze, the player plays as a small girl playing the game, but over time, the game gets more and more demented, with blood, dead dogs, and funeral scenery being added in. Finally, after losing the game on the 3rd attempt, the girl will see Spring Bonnie looming over her, telling her that her dog is over there, and he'll take her to it. All she has to do is follow him. In Midnight Motorist, if the player goes into the opening on the track, they will transition into a minigame, playing as a yellow man in a purple car. He then drives home, past a grave, and a building called Juniors, where they aren't allowed in. Once home, they find a man watching TV before trying to get into a locked room, begging to be let in. Then going around the house to find a broken window, 2 animatronic footprints, and footprints running away from the house.
It's assumed this yellow man is Afton, which doesn't make sense because he's normally depicted in purple, but he's also depicted in yellow when he's Springtrap, Spring Bonnie, so the evidence being, of course, his purple car, and the person in the room is none other than Michael Afton, given evidence by the fact that the yellow man calls him a he, and if the crying child is the brother of Michael Afton and is also an Afton, he wouldn't have escaped from his room due to his fear of the animatronics. But of course, all of this is at best debatable in the fanbase.
And then Security Puppet. The player plays as the puppet, waiting for a child with a green bracelet to appear. On the 4th attempt, the player will see that child outside the building before they disappear. By following outside, the puppet will start short-circuiting, finding the female child dead in an alleyway with car tracks next to the body. The puppet will lay next to the child as it dies out too. This is the same events that we saw unfold in the Save Him minigame in FNaF 2, just with the added, detail of the fact that it's not Save Him, it's Save Her now because it's a female child, and the puppet actually goes out. This child was murdered by Afton and then possessed the puppet.
But who is the child? Simple. Charlie from the Five Nights at Freddy's books. First, she was taken by Afton in the novels and was killed. How she managed to come back twice in the novels is still unknown.
To you.
Other than that, that's basically all the evidence leading to the conclusion. Not to mention the Save Him minigame from FNaF 2 also had a child outside of a Freddy's establishment being killed by the purple man, and then jump scare from the puppets. It just sort of fits. Also, Lefty had to be looking out for the puppet because the puppet was looking for a bracelet code, which Lefty possesses, and Lefty has a music box soothing device which would only work really on the puppet.
By completing all the games to the mentioned points, the player will be rewarded with a certificate of completion. Now, on to the completion ending. By getting all the animatronics, Molten Freddy, aka Ennard, Scrap Trap, aka Afton, Scrap Baby, aka Baby, aka Elizabeth Afton, aka the daughter of the killer, and Lefty, aka the puppet/Charlie, the player will be met with a challenging last 2 nights until this cutscene plays.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
This is Henry's speech. Henry was the tape man, and Charlie, the puppet, was his daughter. He finally ended it all, alongside Michael, the player, which explains how the player can survive dying in salvage sections. Michael just doesn't die. But with Henry burning down the pizza sim location, Michael, Baby, his sister, Afton, his father, and the souls of the original 5 missing kids, his brother, and Charlie's souls, are all set free.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I just said all 5 missing kids were set free and Michael's brother? How does that work?
Well, there's a widely accepted theory that Michael's brother, the crying child, ended up possessing Fredbear, who became Golden Freddy, who, alongside 4 animatronics, got possessed by the 5 missing kids. Golden Freddy has 2 spirits inside of it, and in FNaF 3, Afton deconstructed the 5 OG animatronics and reads the remnant, which is just metal soul juice essentially, inside the Fun Times, which became Ennard, who became Molten Freddy, who burnt in the pizza sim location. So yeah, did that make sense? Because I'm making the vid, and it barely made sense to me.
So, that was it. The games were finished. Finally. But Scott forgot the custom night, so he had to introduce it in... the 7th installment. No one was really expecting this game to have any major lore implications after the absolute bombshell that was Pizzeria Sim. So, it was just a normal, fun game.
You're in hell!
Not again!
You play as William Afton, Springtrap, Purple Guy, in a personalized hell where you must face off against 50 different animatronics whose difficulty can be increased all the way up to 20. How do we know this is Afton that we're playing as? Well, using a few new voice lines from the animatronics after they kill you, we can piece together that whoever is being trapped here is being held by the one you should not have killed. And the only two people we know in the FNaF universe to have actually killed someone are Michael, who killed the crying child, and William, father and son. Michael had killed his younger brother by accident in 1983, and William has been killing a lot. But there's still a few pointers that point us to William being our player character. But before we discuss this, I need to clarify the lore of FNaF to make sense of what I'm about to say. But of course it's not going to be me. See, after episode 1, I, came to a deal with that one British AI dude, and I don't want to sit here and read all this, because it's a lot, and you're going to see it's a lot, so I'm going to have him read it. So, have fun, British guy.
Alright. So, you got two families. The Aftons and Henry. The Aftons are composed of William, the father, Michael, the oldest sibling, Elizabeth, the middle child, and an unnamed crying child. Henry is just himself and his daughter, Charlie. William and Henry made a business together in the 1980s called Fredbear's Family Diner. After its success, William and Henry expand to normal pizza joints using side characters that they inquired like Chico and Foxy alongside non-spring lock animatronics versions of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie.
Spring locks allow the person to reuse the suits that are normally animatronics into costume forms by pulling apart the endoskeleton inside of it and pushing it to the side where they're locked by springs, hence spring lock, and the person can climb inside, wear it as a costume, but if they move around too much and if there's moisture in the air, the endoskeleton snaps on them and then they crush and die and bleh.
The crying child then becomes afraid of the animatronics, likely after seeing a spring lock failure. His birthday comes around, and his brother begins tormenting him over his fear. This tormenting eventually boils over on the crying child's birthday when his brother and his friends lift him into Fredbear's mouth, which clamps down and kills the crying child in 1983. William is, of course, broken by this and takes to drinking and tormenting his only remaining son, Michael, but begins to favor Elizabeth more and more. After Fredbear's closes, the pizza joints become the main source of income for Henry and William. William, however, in a drunken state, kills Henry's daughter outside of a Freddy's location, leaving a security puppet Henry installed to protect his daughter to follow outside, and become possessed by Charlie. William returns home and finds Michael to have escaped from his room to visit his brother's grave to apologize once more for what he did. William promises that, when Michael returns, he will be sorry. Henry, finding his daughter killed, kicks Afton from the business, suspecting him. This only infuriates William more, so he gets a job in 1987 at a Freddy's location as a day shift guard in a purple uniform. There, he finds his old Spring Bonnie suit and begins luring kids to the back rooms where he kills them and places their bodies in the withered animatronics. This causes the toy animatronics, with their criminal database analyzers, to begin freaking out after witnessing a guard kill 5 kids. William quits, finding his job complete, and Henry begins being investigated by the cops. Eventually, the location, alongside other Freddy's locations, are all closed, leaving one last Friday for the last birthday party. There, a guard gets bitten by an animatronic and creates the Bite of 87.
Wow!
After this, William begins working on a competing chain of locations to replace Freddy's called Circus Baby's Pizza. He makes the fun times and begins setting up for the opening day. However, he adds child luring and encapsulating devices into the animatronics to continue his killing. But his daughter Elizabeth takes a liking to Baby, the main animatronic, which William tries to turn her away from. However, all of this fails as, on the opening day, Baby kills Elizabeth, causing William to shut down Circus Baby's Pizza. He begins repurposing these animatronics for 2 purposes. Using sound illusion discs, he makes nightmare versions of the main for animatronics to torment Michael further at night. However, during the day, he rents out the animatronics to attempt to capture more kids, which kinda just fails. But Michael is scared by these nightmares and countless nights of staying up to defend himself from horrifying nightmare creations. After some time, Michael becomes an adult and moves out, leaving William alone. In his solitude, he visits the ruins of the 1987 FNaF2 location, finding the withered animatronic still walking around because the puppet, who had been taken by Henry, had given the killed children's souls a second life in the animatronics. William, after seeing the withers still alive, begins deconstructing them and melting parts of the metal, making metal soul juice called Remnant. He puts the Remnant into the Funtime animatronics and also finds Baby to be possessed by Elizabeth.
Also, side note, Golden Freddy was the OG Fredbear that killed the Crying Child, and then the Crying Child possessed Fredbear, but then when the new Golden Freddy spirit was killed and then put inside Golden Freddy, that spirit also possessed the Golden Freddy, meaning that there was two souls inside of Golden Freddy, that being the Fredbear Bite of 83 spirit, the Crying Child, and then the new Golden Freddy spirit from the Missing Kids incident that Afton killed and stuffed inside. TLDR, two souls inside of Golden Freddy.
On William's fifth visit to the FNaF2 location, he finds 5 spirits which cause him into his Spring Bonnie costume, which fails and kills a William. William is now Springtrap. Michael, to make ends meet, begins looking for a job. While this happens, Henry employs him to look after the FNaF2 location while the remains of the withers are repurposed to make the FNaF1 animatronics, which Michael is employed to be a night guard at 2. However, the FNaF1 location goes under due to bad press and the smell of rotting corpses still present in the animatronics fur. During Michael's time at the FNaF1 location, he begins having nightmares of his job as a night guard in the old room he was tormented by the fun times in when he was a kid. This creates the FNaF4 gameplay. After Freddy's reopening goes under, Michael investigates into his dad's work and finds that Circus Baby's Pizza was turned into Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, which had become inactive after William's Springlock incident, leaving Funtime Chique being rented out indefinitely. Michael goes to the bunker where the Fun Times were located and goes through the SisterLocation gameplay, where he is scooped and becomes immortal. From there, Michael is hired by a friend to work at Fazbear Frights, a horror attraction based on the FNaF2 killings. There, he finds his father, Springtrap, and lights him on fire. While all this is happening, the spirits inside Enid briefly work with the puppet, Charlie, to set the Crying Child, and 4 of the 5 killed kids free. This results in Happiest Day, which works, leaving the other Golden Freddy spirits to pilot Enid on their own alongside Baby, aka Elizabeth. After Michael tells Henry about Enid, they make a plan to lure Enid, Baby, the puppet, and William to a final location. Enid splits with Baby, making Molten Freddy, with the last Golden Freddy spirit, Scrap Baby, with Elizabeth's soul, left her, holding Charlie aka the puppet inside it, and Scraptrap, the remains of William's Springtrap suit. All of them are lured to the Pizza Sim location where Michael, Henry, Eliabeth, Charlie, William, and the last Golden Freddy spirit are burned and all set free.
Got all that? No? Good.
Michael! Don't leave me here! Michael! Help me!
Okay, so William, the purple guy, the killer, Springtrap, Scraptrap, is the player character in UCN. We know this because the Crying Child spirit was set free, so it can't be Michael. Can't be Henry either because he didn't really kill anyone. Plus, from the deaf voice lines from the Nightmares confirmed that their maker was the player. William Afton made the Nightmares using sound illusion discs on the Funtime animatronics. Also, if the player sets Old Man Consequences from FNaF World 2.1 and catch a fish, they will go to his lake and play as Freddy. The old man tells him to leave the demon to his demons, while a compressed and slowed version of a man yelling for Mike and Henry plays. So, we know it's William, but who's holding him in hell? Who is the one he should not have killed? Here's our options: Charlie, Elizabeth, or the remaining spirit in Golden Freddy. Firstly, Charlie was already set free twice technically in Happiest Day and the Pizza Sim Fire. Elizabeth is loyal to William in Pizza Sim, so the only person left is the last of the 5 missing kids, Golden Freddy. Again, more evidence is the end to the 50-20 cutscene. See, after every couple of thousand points, the player gets to watch small cutscenes. The Toy Chica high school days, yes, that's a real sentence, show Afton selecting his victims. The anime of Freddy vs. Foxy cutscenes, yep, show Henry and Afton's rivalry throughout the series. And the final cutscene is...
So Golden Freddy was the one he should not have killed. And with that said, FNaF was finally, you know the drill already, it's not over, it's never over. Released on June 26, 2018, a day before UCN. The Fourth Closet was the final book in the official original book trilogy and would be the final installment in the entirety of Five Nights at Freddy's. Never again would there be any more extra lore tidbits that would be explained through books. Nope. This is the worst book in the trilogy in my opinion, so forgive me if I sound very disinterested while reading. Charlie is back, but she's different. John is a sad boy, so he investigates the new Charlie and where the old Charlie went. Eventually, he finds old Charlie in a box with Charlie's aunt Jen or Jan, I forgot which one. She then kinda disappears for most of the book while John and co. follow new evil Charlie. After following her, they find William Afton out of his springlock suit, staying alive using Remnant, the soul juice that we mentioned previously. John finds out the Charlie he knew was a series of 4 robots made by Henry, and the old Charlie was the teen one, whereas the new Charlie is the adult version, which Henry had made with anger before killing himself. Afton stole adult Charlie, used the agony Henry placed into her, and made her evil. He also found out Charlie uses advanced sound illusion discs to make her look more human. In reality, adult Charlie is Baby from the games. Baby then kills Elizabeth, which is also why adult Charlie is evil, because she's possessed by Elizabeth. Blah 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 goes, things happen. Golden Freddy's spirit is named Cassidy. The old teen Charlie has an internal soul fight between new adult Charlie and Elizabeth, kinda, sorta, where old Charlie uses the memories of her dad's suicide to kill both Elizabeth's soul and her own soul, kinda, in the adult body. The book ends with John visiting Charlie's real grave before he walks away with the new Charlie bots. I don't even know what I read. I genuinely dislike this book. It jumped so many sharks, and then the graphic novel only made it slightly better. It is such a weird book. It was a horrible part to like the series of the trilogy of books. Fourth Closet ruined it. They could have... Scott should have had a better ending. I mean, it works for what it was, but like... Finally! That is it! Scott was finally finished with FNaF. The story was complete. Everyone was set free. Afton was in hell. The books added extra lore info onto there for the people who didn't get it at first. FNaF was finally over.
Are you challenging me? Oh, I'm so excused.
The FNaF story was finished. Most loose ends had answers, the books were finished, the games were finished, but now we had FNaF VR.
With the main series of games just finished, surely FNaF VR would just be a collection of short little VR minigames as advertised.
Released May 28th, 2019, just under a year after UCN's release date. FNaF VR was the first game not fully developed by Scott. Rather, it was made by Steelwool Studios, founded in 2012.
Remember that name. I'm gonna say it a lot in part 4.
Steelwool was previously known for their mass hit games like Mars Odyssey, Bounce, Fly Hunter Origins, and...
What?
Okay, maybe they don't have the best known track record, but they can at least make games. Plus, Scott trusted them, so surely this game would be amazing.
I'll just start proofreading my will now.
It was almost exactly as advertised. It was a ton of FNaF games in VR, taking you all the way from FNaF 1 to FNaF 4 with new gameplay for each minigame. FNaF 1, FNaF 2, FNaF 3, Dark Rooms, Parts and Service, Vent Repair, and Night Terrors. All with blacklight variations, which made the minigames harder. It was a welcome addition, just something fun for fans to play. Sure, the game wasn't exactly the most polished, but VR was a very difficult thing to code with back then and even now. Also, all the levels had secret collectibles like coins, which could be used to unlock items at a price counter, and audio tapes. That's when each one is collected, a bunny man will slowly make their way towards you.
Huh. That's weird.
What's also weird is what the tapes say. Fazbear Entertainment was using the VR game to make fun of their past and undo bad PR that came from Scott's games, which are now canon. Also, there's something in the VR game that a game tester found, which caused him to go crazy and cut off his face. Also, probably unrelated, but Fazbear Entertainment scanned in code from old animatronics. This code is causing glitches like a bunny man to appear. Who else do we know has a correlation with bunnies that was also old and refuses to die?
Gee, I wonder.
So they probably found the PizzaSimulacation, scanned in Afton, who's now possessing the game as the glitch bunny. Hey Steel Wool, what should we name it?
Let's hear. We have Springtrap, we have Scraptrap. What should we name this new, glitchy variant? I got it! Mal-hair. Get it? Cause hair, cause it's a rabbit, and then malware, cause it's bad.
It's named Glitchtrap.
Damn it!
Also, the game has 3 different endings. The easiest ending is where you complete all the VR minigames and go through a maze called Pizza Party. After getting to the end, the player will be led behind the curtain by Glitchtrap before becoming Freddy as Glitchtrap dances around you. You, just like the missing kids, have been stuffed into Freddy. The next 2 endings occur after collecting all the tapes. By listening to them, you'll be given a guide to
let it approach you. Let it begin to merge with you. Play the music and flip the switch. That will cause a hard restart of the game and flush the memory, effectively killing it.
If you fail to do what Tape Girl says, you will switch places with Glitchtrap, meaning he's merged with you and has taken over your mind. Alternatively, if you do exactly what Tape Girl says, you'll be put behind a metal doorway as Glitchtrap locks you and dances away.
Regardless of the ending, ultimately, you, the player, still lose, whether it's getting stuffed in Freddy, being locked inside the VR experience, or merging with Glitchtrap. You will always lose. So, Afton was back in a digital form, taking over the minds of everyone that played a game that was released massively to the public. The future of FNaF was going to be huge, with Glitchtrap essentially controlling the minds of millions. But some people were still a little iffy when it came to the lore of the series, and so Scott, knowing that the games would only be moving forward, wanted to release more books that would explain some of the past parts of the lore, similar to what SisterLocation did. Scott would be making even more books with a new series of short stories called Fazbear Frights. But before that book could be released, Stillwell was planning out and making a Halloween DLC to Help Wanted, alongside a AR FNaF game called FNaF Special Delivery, made by a separate studio called Illumix. It was supposed to be this kind of FNaF Pokemon Go-esque type of game, and it would finally be released to Android and iOS on November 25th, 2019. But before that, Stillwell released the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, the Halloween DLC, to FNaF VR.
The jack-o'-lantern. The chocolate ice.
It was the exact same as the base game, with new Halloween minigames and a secret white bunny mask that could be found. When worn, while holding a Glitchtrap plush that you get after getting any ending, this dialogue plays.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No. There's no miscommunication. I understand. Yes, I have it. I made it myself. I think you would like it. No one suspects anything. Don't worry. I'll be ready. And I won't let you down. It will be fun.
So with that said, we can finally talk about FNaF AR, released by Illumix on November 25th, 2019.
Hello, ice cream. My name is Markiplier, and welcome to my mouth.
I think the game itself is pretty self-explanatory. There's a free service that sends you animatronics, and they eventually become corrupted, and try to kill you. All you have to do is stop the animatronics by tasing them. After surviving for long enough and dealing enough damage, you will win the encounter and get to keep the animatronic, and it's, part of your little collection.
There's also a couple of emails that you can read throughout the game, all of which focus on glitch traps sort of subtly taking over the minds of a person named Ness, or Vanessa. She begins acting weird, googling and buying certain items on company time that are very questionable. But, as of recording, most of these emails have yet to be released in-game, and have instead been found through amazing source code hunters and scavengers behind the FNaF community that have decompiled the game, found all the assets of the files, and have released them to the public, allowing for more people to sort of learn about what was supposed to be FNaF AR.
Also, the game slowly fell into being more and more of a cash grab, requiring you to purchase in-game items to progress. Illumix has been under a lot of controversy regarding the company's decision to practically abandon FNaF AR without telling anyone, and underpaying voice actors and developers working on the game, alongside ghosting voice actors that were supposed to be part of the game, like Ballora's voice actor, Michelle Moss.
With that said, and a pretty long time until a next mainline title, which would be a fully 3D FNaF experience, majority of the fans' time was taken up by the new Fazbear Frights series of books, which would be releasing every so often, every couple of months or so. All of this started, of course, with...
We're going back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu.
December 26, 2019. 3 short stories. One is about a kid named Oswald who finds a mysterious ball pit that allows him to travel back in time to 1985, the same year where the first 5 missing kids were killed. Oswald witnesses this and runs away, but William Afton chases after him, escaping and replacing Oswald's dad. Oswald eventually goes back to the ball pit and sends Afton back to 1985 and gets his dad back. 2, To Be Beautiful, is about a girl named Sarah who wants to be beautiful. She meets a long-necked baby look-alike named Eleanor, who gives her a necklace, but each night Eleanor cuts off a limb of Sarah and replaces it with trash. Eventually, Sarah loses the necklace, where she is revealed to have been a pile of trash that was given human form by a sound illusion disc and the necklace. Eleanor escapes, looking like Sarah, using Sarah's limbs, and a sound illusion disc. 3 is just about an emo kid named Millie getting trapped inside Funtime Freddy, where he politely reads off a menu of ways to die, before Millie ends up dying on Christmas.
Honestly, not the best to start a new book series, but it does show exactly what the future of these books can do for the lore of the series. Eleanor was obviously a book tie-in for Ennard and Kinda Baby, due to Eleanor trying to essentially take over a person's body so that way they could escape into the real world. So, with that said, on to the next Fazbear Frights book, Fetch.
There are barely women on this mission. Is your suit white because you're racist? Why did you say mankind? Are there any transgender bathrooms in the lunar module?
How the fuck are you breathing in
Plot twist, Scott made another game! MatPat from the Game Theory channel was holding a cancer research charity stream. Scott decided to participate because MatPat had had a major role in the FNaF community as one of the biggest theorists in the fandom. Scott released Freddy In Space 2, a joke game based off of a joke game in FNaF World, which is also now a joke game. However many points MatPat collected at the end of the stream, Scott would donate to MatPat's charity. Scott ended up donating a total of $540,999 to charity.
Since this game was purely made for charity and as just a fun little side game, there wasn't any lore. Aside from joke theories like Dream Theory and other heavily scrutinized or just weird theories that the fanbase has come up with. But in the game's code, you could find a small little extra side teaser for the future of FNaF, the next game that would be coming out, FNaF Security Breach. A singular image, and it looked like this. So, tell me, where did it all start? About 5 seconds ago? Look, we've gotten a lot of requests for you to finally talk about the Fazbear Frights book. So why don't you hurry up and just talk about them? But they're weird! As your therapist, I don't care. Just talk about them so I get paid.
Sit. Speak.
Fuck!
Good boy.
March 3rd, 2020. 3 more short stories. 1, Fitch, is about a kid finding an old animatronic dog that connects to his phone. The animatronic does what the kid says, but almost too well and to absurd degrees, resulting in his crush dying. 2, Lonely Freddy, is about a kid trying to expose his sister to not be the golden child that his parents see her as, only for her sister to do something nice for him on her birthday. The kid runs off and swaps bodies with a Freddy plush, leaving him trapped inside of it. 3, out of stock, is a couple of friends getting a weird looking plush trap that tries to kill them, but doesn't move when light is shined at it. They lure plush trap to some train tracks where it's run over.
So, a Sparky the Dog hoax reference, a reference to a kid getting stuffed or some kind of Freaky Friday switch up, and an explanation to the Fun with Plush Trap minigames. Yes. Now on to... Wait. There's something you forgot. What? Isn't there like some kind of overarching story at the end of each book? It's easier if I recap them all at one time at the end. Okay, but people are complaining about the fact that you didn't talk about the FNaF 4 Halloween update. Oh.
That's the first night. They're never that bad on the first night. There's no way I'm gonna die on the first night.
Since FNaF 4 came out way before its original release date on Halloween 2015, Scott released a free DLC that gave characters new looks. Nightmare Chica was replaced with Jacko Chica, Nightmare Bonnie with Jacko Bonnie, Plush Trap with Nightmare Balloon Boy, Nightmare Foxy with Nightmare Mangle, and Nightmare with Nightmarion. All of these characters were originally non-canon characters, but they later became canon as they were reintroduced in UCN, alongside later appearances in future games. Only reason I didn't mention it earlier was because I forgot, and because they just were new looks to the same mechanics, so it'd just be saying the exact same information over again.
Okay. Continue with the Fitzgerald scares. Fazbear Frights. Yeah, that one.
May 5th, 2020. 3 more short stories. 1, 1:35 a.m. is about a person finding an alarm clock doll that looks a lot like Ella from the SisterLocation trilogy, which is the first Charlie bought. The person throws out Ella after it doesn't go off, but it continuously wakes up the person despite being gone. Eventually, the person starts to go insane and dies inside a vent system. 2, Room for One More, is about Stanley, who works the night shift. Every night, he sleeps on the job, and mini arenas begin to sneak into his body, while he dreams about the fun time animatronics. He eventually dies, swollen from the amount of mini arenas inside of him. 3, The New Kid is just about some kid leading a new kid to the Golden Freddy costume where he's killed. Upon returning to the dead kid inside of Golden Freddy, the kid finds a different kid inside Golden Freddy's suit instead of the person that he ended up killing, before also being killed by the Golden Freddy suits.
So, not much lore? Aside from adding to the idea that there's 2 spirits inside of Golden Freddy, and yet another allegory for Enter taking over someone's body? No. Next one? Yeah.
Was that the bite of 87?
July 7th, 2020. 3 more...
Look, man, I can't keep doing this. All the stories are either pointless or weird. And this is barely book 4. Sorry, did you say something?
1 Step Closer is about a kid bullying his younger brother. His younger brother is afraid of Foxy, so his older brother brings him to Foxy. As the elder brother is walking away after his epic prank, he's cursed by Foxy to lose an eye and an arm. He then dies and is forced to watch within his dead body as an arm and eye are removed in surgery. 2 Dance With Me. Someone steals a woman's glasses that, when worn, show Ballora dancing. As the person that stole the glasses continues stealing, Ballora will slowly get closer, but upon returning the stolen items, Ballora begins to move away, ending in the person returning the woman's purse and glasses, leaving Ballora behind. 3 Coming Home is about Chica taking the ghost girl named Susie, both being the same spirit composed of different emotions.
So, this is the remnant you've been rambling on for the past 6 hours about. Kinda. See, as brought up by many of the stories, and as we'll get to later, the Stingers, different emotions have different strengths and can produce different types of hauntings. The most powerful emotion of all being, of course, agony. This is how Afton kept coming back. This is how the spirits, after being killed, possessed the animatronics. It's because they were filled with agony, they were angry, they were hurt,
and so they are able to possess things easier. It's also how Susie acts in Coming Home. So, Remnant is the metal soul juice. What's this agony stuff? Emotional metal soul juice can be either peaceful, like Susie, or very, very angry, like Chica, just depending on how it feels and what caused it to be made. Okay, so this book is a correlation to Michael bullying the crying child, confirmed to be his brother. As a result of the bullying, the older brother dies, but possesses his own body, like Michael after being scooped. Bingo! And Dance With Me is utterly pointless, and Coming Home is just to introduce the idea of two different types of emotional spirits. Yeah.
Hi? Or didn't I do it for you? Didn't I do it? Didn't I? When all I did was for you. Uh-oh, it's a shotgun?
September 1st, 2020. 1. Bunny Call is about a family very similar to the Aftons going to a camp. The father, a stand-in for William Afton, purple guy, signs his family up for a bunny call, where the camp counselor will come to their cabin and wake everyone up at 5 a.m. with symbols. At night, the father regrets this and goes outside and talks to another man about their poor past with their parents. The father gets back, fends off the bunny man until 6, where he's told that the camp counselor who does the bunny calls had overslept, meaning that there shouldn't have been one that night. Ooh, spooky. So, reference to the family, William being a bad dad, and the animatronics being vicious until 6 a.m. Yeah. 2. In the Flesh is about a VR game developer making a game where Springtrap chases you around a maze. The developer begins to torment Springtrap as a way to arouse anger from a divorce. Over time, the developer gets a pain in his stomach before cutting it open, where an infant Springtrap crawls out, calls the developer daddy, and escapes, causing the developer to bleed out and die. Impreg story that probably results in the overly realistic plush trap from out of stock. Right. Noted. 3. The Man in Room 1280 is about a child spirit named Andrew keeping a burnt William Afton alive despite being in a nearly dead coma. Ultimate Custom Night and Golden Freddy? Yup. Let's go! I'm so good at this! December 29th, 2020. 1. Blackbird is about a group of friends making a film with one of the friends, Sam, in a Blackbird costume. Sam is then killed by a train. From this, Noel, the other friend, is then tormented by a blackbird in his daily life and dreams, hearing a screeching or low humming whenever he sees it. Eventually, he is freed from the curse. 2. The Real Jake is about a kid who is suffering from cancer called PNET, or primitive ectodermal tumors. Every night, Jake talks to a small toy which has a baby monitor in it that goes to Jake's dad, Evan. Jake tells the toy what he wishes he did every day, since he's been bedridden due to his sickness. Jake's caretaker then gets the info from Jake's dad of what the real Jake did each day and adds to the toy to reflect what Jake wishes he did. After some time, Evan dies, and Jake's caretaker is unable to do all the things that the real Jake did to the doll. Jake's condition gets worse until he dies and ends up possessing the real Jake toy. 3. Hide and Seek is just about some Fazbear employees cheating a game and then getting haunted by a shadow Bonnie until they beat the game without cheats. So, reference to illusion discs, more about possession, and a connection to the Stingers, which we'll get to later, and just some meaningless explanation behind Shadow Bonnie that barely makes sense. You sure there isn't more to that Shadow Bonnie story? Nope, moving on. March 2nd, 2021, the new year. The next FNaF mainline game was moved back due to a certain pandemic, but it was slated for release in a few months' time, likely in May. But before that, we had a few more books. 1. The Cliffs is about a single father raising his son. His son is then kidnapped, driving the father to mental instability, where he pretends his son is a small Freddy plush. 2. The Breaking Wheel is about a bully, Julius, and his exoskeleton that is connected to a frequency of another remote. After altering the remote, Julius, wearing the skeleton, is ripped apart and begins to chase after people, killing someone as a child controls it, accidentally being the cause to a murder. 3. He Told Me Everything is about someone coming into contact with Fazgoo, which replaces the victim with a double. So, a reference to the Fredbear plush from FNaF 4, a correlation to William Afton being turned into Springtrap by an endoskeleton, and a useless story about Fazgoo. Didn't you say these were supposed to expand on the lore? The next mainline FNaF game was delayed again to December. Fans were outraged, so Scott released a small game to hold everyone over on April 28th, 2020. Another joke game in the style of a beat-em-up featuring the Glam Rocks, which would be appearing in FNaF Security Breach. No lore, just a fun little game. Unless you're a theorist. What? Yeah, I have a lot of respect towards the FNaF theorist community, but I think a lot of them pick apart very minute details of essentially joke games just to their bare essentials, or even further, just to make some random theory. Security Breach Fury's Rage was just supposed to be a small little joke game for fans that are waiting for Security Breach to actually release. But couldn't there still be lore? Let me ask you this. Did Freddy In Space 2 have any lore in it? It was a joke game made for charity. No lore. It was just to be fun. So this one probably doesn't either. Heck, you have a alligator spinning while yelling protein shake, and Scott Cawthon's online character, Anim Dude, with a bulge. Do you really think there's gonna be that much lore? Moving on.
Golden's ready. I hope nothing bad happens to you. What do you want?
I always come back.
May 1st, 2021. 1. Gumdrop Angel is about a drama kid who eats a gumdrop from a human-sized gummy at a party. She then slowly becomes a gumdrop person and gets eaten. 2. Sergo's Lucky Day is about a person named Sergo seeking out advice from a Lucky Boy toy. The advice is good, but eventually turns dark as he's mutilated and maimed in an attempt to look more attractive. 3. What we found is a Fazbear Frights worker from FNaF 3 finding Springtrap, dealing with Springtrap, and then being burnt by Springtrap after hiding in an oven. Useless story, and a reference to FNaF 3? Not really. Sergo's Lucky Day can be seen as a reference to Glitchtrap's control of Jeremy in the Help Wanted VR game, where they kind of like where Glitchtrap controlled him, and then eventually Jeremy kind of cuts his face off and does, bad things. But yeah, the other two were just completely useless.
Any last words before you die? Can I at least say goodbye to Cassidy's? Cassidy's? Who's Cassidy's? Cassidy's nuts in your face? Ha ha, funny joke. Cassidy!
July 6, 2021. 1. The Puppet Carver is just about the return of Fazgoo as it attaches itself to someone new. Not much lore. 2. Jump for Tickets is about someone being overly obsessed with a ticket machine before dying and possessing the animatronic named Coils, that then tries to keep kids away from the machine because that's where his body is. Also, Coils is described to have a mask that looks a lot like Ennard. 3. Pizza Kit is about Peyton and Marley going onto a trip to a pizza factory. Peyton thinks she saw Marley die and is haunted by what she assumes to be her vengeful spirit. Marley was actually just hiding, and when she comes home, finds Peyton with her neck snapped. Nothing, and another William Afton to Golden Freddy or Crying Child to Michael parallel. Yeah. Wow, these are boring. When are you getting to the singers again? In a minute. Also, side note, Puppet Carver, fun fact, was the only Fazbear Frights book to ever have an exclusive cover. There is no other Fazbear Frights book to have an exclusive cover. And literally the exclusive cover, I'll show on screen, editing me will show on screen the normal cover and the exclusive cover. The exclusive cover was only for Books A Million releases. And the friend of mine that lent me their Fazbear Frights books, that way I could recap them and have them as props for like the IRL segments, has that limited or the special edition cover, which I thought was really cool. And I literally, like, when he texted me showing me the books, I was like, holy crap, you have the special cover. And he was like, the what? And I hate the fact that I know that there's a special cover now. Yippee! September 7th, 2021. 1. Friendly Faces about a dead cat being replaced by a robot cat that chases its owner to death. 2. Sea Bions is just Fazgoo again. Child gets slowly replaced by genetically altered sea monkeys, dying, but then the Sea Bions live on in his body. 3. Together Forever is about 2 homecoming queens bullying 2 girls. They then make a robot that will trap the girls that they are bullying, but due to a mistake in the programming, the robot attacks and kills the 2 homecoming bullies, leaving them stuck inside of the robot thing. So nothing again, then Ennard again, and then Golden Freddy has 2 spirits again. When are you getting to the Stingers? 2 more books. Also, I have other clients, so if you wanna, like cut this early, I'm fine. I don't want to keep listening about this.
Today we are making Kermit the Frog drink the gay potion. Get off!
Or not. You want to explain that transition, buddy? I'd rather not. November 2nd, 2021. Lightning round, here we go. 1. Prankster is about a group of game tester workers at a VR studio that was just bought by Fazbear Entertainment. After playtesting, the main character experiences a nightmare birthday party where he has to either escape, leaving his friends to die, or an attempt to rescue them, but still probably die. He finds a bunch of morbid things, and the end is left ambiguous. 2. Kids That Play is about Regulus Driver hitting some plastic toys, and then later a kid with his car. He then begins to see toys all over the place as his guilt creeps in. Then he just dies, and the kid is found not to be dead or run over. 3. Fine Player 2 is about a girl who left her friend behind at a Freddy's Maze game. She then goes back 10 years later, assuming someone to have taken her friend, but instead finds her friend's corpse as the maze locks the main character in. Glitch Trap, random ghost sighting, and kinda Glitch Trap? Yeah, pretty much.
Golden Freddy, I've loved you for so long. Will you marry me?
Sorry, I love someone else!
Wait, who?
His name is William!
Actually, Dreadbear is mine. But we have so much more!
Technically, I don't need to talk about this one since all of these stories were scrapped and the book came out way later on April 19th, 2022. But for the sake of completion, here's the final book. Okay, what about... Then we'll get to the Stingers. 1. Felix the Shark is about someone who swears that there was a shark animatronic at Freddy's. His friends don't believe him, so he goes to find proof, but ends up getting locked inside of a tank with a malfunctioning Felix the Shark. 2. The Scoop is just about some kids finding a secret image in FNaF 3, then going out on a hunt to find the answer to it. The answer being, because it's FNaF, a child was killed and placed inside of an animatronic by Purple Man. Side note, MatPat tried to do some, crazy, crackhead theory where he was convinced that this very specific scrapped story in the scrapped book was a setup to a FNaF ARG in Utah, and he proceeded to be like, guys, is there anyone that lives in Utah and can find a snack stand next to a movie theater in this one specific setting? And then so many places in Utah got called constantly about hey, are you connected to the FNaF ARG? Can you give us some hints? And there wasn't a FNaF ARG. Scott never mentioned there was a FNaF ARG, but for some reason MatPat was convinced and took the time out of his day and was like, yes, it has to be an ARG. And then after hearing people were spam calling the companies, MatPat did a small sit down discussion and was like, guys, why? And Matt, you kind of told us to do this. You didn't specifically tell us to call these places, but you implied it. What do you expect, bro? Anyway, 3, You're the Band, is about a kid who begins to see spirits inside the animatronics. He and his mom go to the night guard at Freddy's, where they find the missing kids within the robots. I'll talk about the Stingers now. Yeah!
Woo!
I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Okay, I had written all of this down, and I could recap all of it by just reading out what I have written, but I think it's objectively funnier if I just, like, say everything here and now. So here we go. Ready? Yay. Okay, so you have these two scientists, you have Taggart and Phineas, and they proceed to make this theory that all hauntings are caused by spirits' emotions, and agony is like the strongest of these emotions that can cause hauntings. And so they take a bunch of agony-infused items, like the real Jake plush and a alligator mask, and then put them into an endoskeleton just to see what happens. The result of which is a crazy endoskeleton thing with two spirits inside of it that then touches Phineas, and Phineas just dies, and then it escapes. And so then the spirits inside of it start talking. One of them is Jake, who died in a very loving household and, died essentially happy for the most part. And then the other is Andrew, who was killed by Afton, and basically when he died, he exploded his spirit to attach itself to all nearby objects that all became haunted with him, alongside attaching himself to Afton. And Andrew's the kid that's keeping Afton alive after he died. And so Jake then makes his entire side quest to go and collect every part of Andrew to get Andrew back together and make him whole, so that way Andrew can move on. And then Jake almost moves on, but then goes back for Andrew because he's like, no, I gotta protect Andrew, I gotta save Andrew. And so they do all of this, and eventually they collect the Fetch animatronic, they collect the Ella doll from 1:35 a.m., they collect the plush trap remains and everything. They collect it all, and Andrew is almost back together. And then they make their way to a trash pile, then there's also this cop guy named Detective Larson, who is looking for this mysterious entity called the Stitchwraith, which has been killing people because due to the amount of agony in Andrew and the pieces of Andrew that they're collecting, the Stitchwraith basically touches people and all the agony goes inside of them, and then they just die. And so obviously a lot of people have been dying, so the Stitchwraith has gained its name, and people are very, afraid of it. Anyway, so they make their way to the giant trash pile and collect the last piece of Andrew. But now that Andrew is, set free, and since he attached himself to William Afton's spirit is also technically free, but William Afton's funny, and so since Andrew is attached to William Afton essentially takes over all the things that are attached to Andrew, and becomes this giant trash rabbit that then basically crushes Jake, and then almost kills Larson, but then Larson sacrifices himself because he's there for some reason. Larson sacrifices himself, and that's it. Boom. Stitchwraith Stingers are done. But then it continues. Turns out Jake didn't die, and Larson didn't die either. Larson wakes up in the was in a hospital, and is I need to figure out how these hauntings are happening. I need to understand it all. And so he starts looking for Taggart, which is Phineas's assistant. And then Jake is still inside the Stitchwraith, and so Jake is I need to find Larson, I need to explain these things, I need to, talk to Larson. But then while Jake is looking for Larson, he finds a homeless girl who is revealed to be Eleanor, and then Eleanor is ha ha ha, you fool, I'm gonna manipulate now, and then do horrible things, And so she does that to Jake, and eventually traps Jake and Larson inside of the ball pits that was the first story that leads them to 1985. And so Larson has to avoid all of these night terrors and nightmares and all these stuff, while Jake, kind of just does soul magic things and then sets all of the rest of the spirits free by sacrificing himself, allowing Larson to escape. Larson then escapes and finds Taggart, and Taggart's like, hey, so soul things happen, and Larson's like, damn, that's crazy, and then Taggart gives him a little pendant, and then Larson's like, cool, am I safe now? And Larson's like, and then Taggart's like, yeah. And like that's literally it. That's how it ends. It's so like underwhelming after like a decent ending with the trash rabbit.
Thankfully, he's oblivious to the Springtrap Impreg story. Unlike you, now you remember that. That's been on the back of my head for the past month. Yay! Didn't you say these were supposed to expand in the lore?
Well, there's this possible theory called Stitchline Games, which essentially says that all the Stingers take place in the games. Eleanor's baby after she got kicked from Ennard, and essentially majority of the book's games, or the majority of the book stories take place within the games. Personally, I don't believe it. While I think Remnant is emotional soul juice rather than just normal metal soul juice, I don't think the Stingers and other parts of the books take place in the game, mostly because of how absurd some of the stories are, and the continuity issues that would essentially take place if they were accurate to the games and be part of the games. Like how Golden Freddy is possessed by two spirits while also being possessed by different two spirits, or how is there multiple plush traps that are evil, one of which got destroyed, and that's it, like no one mentioned it ever again. Also, Scott has made a point that the books are meant to be side stories, and some would expand on lore ideas for theorists. That's what he said about the SisterLocation trilogy, and then later about the Fazbear Frights books. While I think Stitchline Games has a good theory behind it, better than some other theories that this fanbase makes, I doubt its legitimacy. I refuse to believe that the games take place in the same continuity as a VR Springtrap Impreg story.
Huh. Okay. So when does the next FNaF game come out? December 16th, 2021.
The Freddy Files are a series of 3 books that served as guides to some of the elements of FNaF, guides to beating each game, showcases of all the death minigames, and how to get the happiest day minigames of FNaF 3, alongside many more.
There was also parts of the game that went over theories or just the lore of the game or minigames that were being talked about. Most of them were, of course, MatPat or other big theorists' theories.
Freddy Files was released on August 29th, 2017 and went over the first 4 games. The Freddy Files Updated Edition was released on June 25th, 2019 and went all the way to UCN. The Freddy Files Ultimate Guide was released on December 7th, 2021 and went through Help Wanted to FNaF AR, alongside adding different elements from previous games.
Someone tell me what's going on.
Why, this is a crime scene, and you're the victims.
Who are you?
I'm your employer, Nate. I go by many names. Phone Guy, MatPat, Scott Cawthon.
A sort of modern spiritual successor to the Freddy Files after Scott retired, the Security Breach files essentially aim to give a guide to many of the endings of Security Breach, alongside different collectibles and some side content. The first book obviously went over FNaF Security Breach, released on September 20th, 2022, with an updated edition planned to release on April 2nd, 2024, likely to go through missed parts of Security Breach Ruin, the DLC, and Help Wanted 2.
Why are all these clothes in here?
I'm down here a lot, and so I just started storing one shirt, and then one shirt led to another shirt, and they just started to multiply. And then there were just a ton of shirts.
Released on March 1st, 2018, The Five Nights at Freddy's Survival Logbook was a small activity book for fans of the series to go through and have fun, as if they were an employee at Freddy's.
But then there was lore. Throughout the book, there were ciphers and a total of 3 entities that spoke in the pages. Mike, making notes in red pen, a mysterious entity messing with the text, and a third entity that would add faded text all throughout the book, asking questions. The community, for the most part, has agreed that the 2 spirits inside the book are the 2 spirits that are also inside of Golden Freddy. The Crying Child and Cassidy. Cassidy is the spirit making the faded text throughout the book, whereas the Crying Child is the one that's actually altering the text. Cassidy is trying to understand who the Crying Child is and help them come to terms with the fact that they are a ghost, a spirit inside of Golden Freddy and the book. And due to the Crying Child being Mike's brother, the Crying Child starts altering text occasionally and saying, "It's me," throughout it.
Then, through some crazy clue hunting, the community solved the name of Golden Freddy's spirit before it was confirmed in the Fourth Closet. I would explain it myself, but it's complicated, to put it lightly.
2, 1. Begin audio prompt in 3, 2, 1.
Previously, I went over FNaF AR, but kind of forgot to just go over the list of animatronics that are present, just because all of them are basically the same. So, just for the sake of completion, here they are now.
Shamrock Freddy, Chocolate Bonnie, Easter Bonnie, Melted Chocolate Bonnie, VR Toy Freddy, High Score Toy Chica and 8-Bit Cupcake, System Error Toy Bonnie, Radioactive Foxy, Toxic Springtrap, Firework Freddy, Liberty Chica and Torch Cupcake, Flamethrower Bear Endo, Broiler Baby, Scorching Chica and Scorching Cupcake, Flaming Springtrap, Ringmaster Foxy, Magician Mangle, Clown Springtrap, Great Escape Golden Freddy, Katrina Toy Chica and Calaverine other Cupcake, Willin Toy Freddy, Boulder Toy Bonnie, Swamp Balloon Boy, Black Ice Frostbear, Arctic Ballora, Frostbite Balloon Boy, Frost Plus Trap, Heartsick Baby, Blackheart Bonnie, Serpent Mangle, Curse Springtrap, Little Red Chica and Moldy Cupcake, Big Bad Foxy, Darkwater Bear Endo, Sunken Toy Bonnie, Piranha Plush Trap, Clockwork Ballora, Aeronaut Toy Freddy, and Jetpack Balloon Boy.
Here's... Goes without saying, I don't even need to tell you who this is. This is my dad.
Scott wanted to capitalize on his designs a little bit more and really didn't want the YouTube tutorials to have all the fun. So he made a book teaching kids how to, draw murder robots.
How to Draw Five Nights at Freddy's, an AFK book, and Five Nights at Freddy's official coloring book, an AFK book, were both released on January 2nd, 2021. And since I don't have much to say about these books, I'm going to try and follow a guide to draw one of these characters.
Okay, so I'm going to be drawing Bonnie from like a PDF that I found on Reddit of like the book, because I don't know where to buy it, or at least anywhere near me where I can buy it. So yeah, I'll put like a little graphic on screen to show what I'm seeing, like the step that I'm following, and feel free to follow along as well. Step 1, create Bonnie's framework. He's a confident performer, so keep his stance wide and emphasize the bends on the elbows, ready to hold his guitar. Okay. I'm gonna follow like the little pre-made drawing that's there. Probably should have done this in pencil. Okay, cool. Redid it. Now I do the little, so it has like shoulder pads or something. I don't know. It looks amazing already. Cool. Now the face. It would suck if I've been, like, blocking it with my head. Ears. We'll round out the corners later. Right, and then he needs his semicircle hands. Oh, and then the bow tie, of course. Cool, now I do the guitar. Woo. Why am I doing this? This is such like a dumb bit. How do I do his mouth? Do I just like... Yeah, we'll go with that. That's objectively funnier than whatever I could probably do. And then he needs the little like overhang ear bits. And then details on the hands. I think that looks pretty good, all things considered. Cool, now I do like the outlines and stuff and then I erase it. Amazing, absolutely. Wow, I hate this so much. Why am I doing this bit? It looks so... It's the eyes, I think. What in the hell? I did follow the instructions. I blame the book. I'd followed them as best as I could. Oh, right, he has like the... Yeah, he has the belly thing where it's like a different shade. There we go. Maybe it'll look better with color. Here, hon, I'll do the cool transition thing. Hit him with the... And there we go. It's done. That took me 30 minutes. I hate this so much. I hate this. This is my new OC to FNaF. I'm gonna call him... He's Bon E, like Bon I. That's his name. He's my OC. Don't steal. Released February 7th, 2023, the Character Encyclopedia was a theorist's dream. It answered every question about characters, gave descriptions, and would do so much for theorizing. And then it was actually released. So much misinformation, alongside some pretty serious graphical mistakes like Toichika's beak being a completely different color on the top, and also the fact that some characters just didn't have entries. There was no Mike entry, there was no, like, William Afton entry, there was nothing. Here, I'll give a list. Here we go. On page 32, the book states that Blacklight Freddy was used in the parts and service level in Help Wanted, despite actually being cut in the final game. It is possible that it may have been the same model, just blackened, but the more likely answer is that Scott just forgot that Blacklight Freddy wasn't used in the final cut. On page 163 in the description of Eleanor, it says that the story To Be Beautiful, that Sarah found Eleanor in a dumpster. This is not correct, as the story actually goes she found Eleanor in the trunk of a car in a junkyard. On page 215, the caption states that the version of Charlotte featured in the novels survived childhood. This is false, as Charlie in the novels was killed by William Afton as well. However, this version was rebuilt in a humanoid robot by her father. Flaming Springtrap, Below Red Chica, and the Great Escape and Freddy are the only skins absent in the book. Scrap Trap only has an appearance in William Afton's page 206 to 207, whereas Springtrap, Burn Trap, Glitch Trap, and Springtrap skins get their own pages. On page 212, Circus Baby is mistakenly referred to as a him.
Nightmare Freddy, Lefty, Helpy, Nightmare Bonnie, Nightmare Chica, Nightmare Foxy, Funtime Foxy, Nightmare Ione, Endo02, and Montgomery Gaynor are the only wrongly stated to appear in the special delivery when none of them do. However, it could be possible that they were planned to. Special Delivery was the AR game, by the way. On page 16, it states that Golden Freddy appears in Sister Location, but does not. But Golden Freddy is the name of one of the Custom Night challenges. On page 32, Blacklight Freddy is mistakenly stated to appear in Special Delivery, whereas it actually says that he was featured in Help Wanted instead. On page 56, Bon Bon is stated to have appeared in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, when he doesn't. On page 126, Shadow Balloon Boy is wrongly stated to have appeared in Help Wanted. On page 193, it does not state that Old Man Consequences appears in FNaF World. On page 74, Toy Chica's upper beak is yellow. Oddly, the art depicting her on the following page correctly depicts her upper beak as orange. On pages 119 and 126, Shadow Puppet and Shadow Balloon Boy use art of their phantom counterparts. On page 133, the art depicting Lucky Boy shows his sign saying, "It's your lucky day." This is wrong because in Sergo's Lucky Day, the sign actually says, "I'm a lucky boy." This mistake is also made in the description. On pages 134 and 135, an image of Endo02 is used in Endo01's page. Pages 214 to 215, art depicts Charlie Emily with graphic novel art of her teen counterpart from the novel trilogies, whereas she's only a child in the games. It also talks about only child Charlie from the games in the character encyclopedia, even though again they show the graphic novel art from the novel trilogy where she's a teenager.
While some of these details are a tiny little bit nitpicky, it cannot be denied that these are some major errors on Scott's or Steelwool's parts. Also, major characters were completely left out of the book, instead being replaced by kinda meaningless and useless FNaF AR skins with the most generic descriptions imaginable. This book saddens me. But there is always something that cheers me up whenever I'm down. Food.
It's a cookbook. I'm not sure what else to say. 40 different recipes that were released on January 11th, 2023. For the sake of making this video longer, I'm going to make a recipe from the book, specifically barbecue sauce.
Hey everyone, welcome to the kitchen anyway. So, as I said, I'm going to make barbecue sauce from the cookbook. I have a little recipe that I printed out here that's from the book. I'll put a little graphic of it on screen so you can see what I'm doing, and I'll highlight like, oh, I'm doing this step now or whatever. Oh, I love editing. Anyway, so yeah, first I need ketchup, wine vinegar, brown sugar, Worcestershire sauce, mustard powder, smoked paprika, and then black pepper. Worcestershire sauce. Alright, cool. So here are our ingredients. We have the dark brown sugar, we have ketchup, mustard, paprika, pepper, Worcestershire, the sauce, and then I don't have white wine vinegar, so instead I'll be using a substitute barbecue sauce. One cup of ketchup. Ketchup goes into saucepan. Wonderful. God, that looks awful. 3.5 tablespoons of our white wine vinegar. Again, since I don't have white wine vinegar, since I don't have any, I'll be using barbecue sauce. And I'm just gonna eyeball it. And now I do 3 1/4 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Cool. Now our 1 tablespoon of that word. What does Worcestershire sauce even taste like? Half a teaspoon of mustard powder. 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Cool. Okay, now let me change the camera angle. Wow, doesn't that look so appetizing? Don't you just want to eat it right here and now? Put all the ingredients into a medium saucepan and bring to a steady simmer over low heat. Once the sugar has been dissolved, turn the heat up and let boil for 2 to 3 minutes, then remove the heat, let cool. Sauce will keep for a few weeks in the fridge. Got it. So, low heat, and I'm just gonna like mix it around a tiny little bit. Oh sh! We run with it. We got this. I'm gonna be the only one eating this, so this is fine. Cool, now we let it simmer. I don't even want to try and eat that now. That was way too much pepper. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. Cool. Now we just let it be. It's probably gonna be a while before it, actually boils. This is actually taking forever, bro. How long? It's just... Bruh. Should I just, call it? I mean, I'm sure it's edible. It's just a bunch of sauces. Spices. Same thing as, I don't know, ramen. Yeah, it's at that, saucy consistency. I'm gonna get chili. Alright. Well, let's dump it into a bowl then. Okay, after 30 minutes of making it, it's finally done. That is the barbecue sauce, and I don't have a chicken nugget or anything to taste it with, so I'm just gonna use bread because I figured why not? So let's try it out. That's a lot of pepper. Wow. Yeah, no, that's awful. No. Why did I make this? I don't know how well it's gonna show up on camera, but there you go. You can see the pepper in the sauce. That is... Wow. My body is telling me not to take a bite. There's a solid piece of pepper in there. Ow. No, I'm not eating.
Gregory, do you see the small vent on the floor? Have you ever heard of Among Us, Gregory? You need to vent. I know it will be hard not for you to be sus, I know you can do it, Gregory.
This was FNaF's big next step. FNaF 1 was the beginning, 2 was an expansion on lore and the amount of animatronics, 3 was an expansion on world building and a finale, 4 was the first time FNaF was more open rather than confined to a singular point of view, World was the first spin-off, the books were a general expansion to FNaF, SisterLocation was another bigger expansion on world building and movement, Pizza Sim was a definitive finale with simple expansions, UCN was a bigger expansion on animatronics, Fazbear Frights was fun, convoluted world building, VR was a continuation of the story with a new twist, AR was bad. So Security Breach, despite its constant delays, was set to release on December 16th, 2021, and would, hopefully, feature a new Afton copycat named Vanny, the glitch trap virus, and so much more. And with the delays, the game would come out near perfect with minimal glitches. Steelwool knew how to make games and had accumulated many new developers. Security Breach was going to be amazing. But then it was released. My relationship with this game is odd. I hate the fact that I hate this game. This game was incredible from a speedrunning and much less casual gameplay perspective, which is more so where I fall into. I enjoy learning how to break games and how mechanics work. But from a much more casual perspective, this game is abysmal. So many glitches. Many were found within most normal playthroughs, whether it's glitching out of bounds, missing textures, or just game-breaking bugs that left parts of the game nearly impossible. Countless casual playthroughs partly ruined by these glitches.
Nearly everyone was mad at Steelwool for the state of the game, and that's all without mentioning the story.
So, the story goes as follows. There's a Pizzaplex, a Freddy's-themed mall that hosts countless venues and 4 main animatronic, with a few lesser animatronics throughout. Glamrock Freddy, Glamrock Chica, Roxanne Wolf, and Montgomery Gator serve as the main attractions. The daycare attendant, also known as Sun and Moon, staff bots, DJ Music Man, Wind-Up Music Man, Glamrock Bonnie, Wet Floor Bot, and Glamrock Mr. Hippo as lesser animatronics. One day, Glamrock Freddy malfunctions during a performance and a small child crawls into the stomach hatch made for delivering gifts and hides. The child's name is Gregory, who is hiding away from a security officer, Vanessa, and a bunny woman. He quickly befriends Freddy, who promises to get Gregory out of the Pizzaplex. The doors lock, and Gregory is forced to spend 5 nights at Freddy's.
It's actually only one night.
Gregory then goes around Freddy's on a hyper-extended fetch quest where he looks for a thing, finds he needs another thing, goes to get that thing, and then finds he needs another thing, or gets, kidnapped or something, or dies halfway through, and then they have to restart their entire progress from, I don't know, maybe hours before, because, the game doesn't have autosaves for some reason, which I think is really absurd. After committing genocide to a few angry animatronics and reattaching their parts onto Gregory's new best friend, who is friends with these angry animatronics, Gregory has the option to end his journey in a few different ways. Security Breach has 6 separate endings. Here we go. 1. The alleyway occurs when the player character Gregory chooses to leave the Pizzaplex at the earliest point possible. A short comic-style cutscene shows Gregory hiding in an alleyway homeless as Vanny approaches. 2. The rooftop occurs when the player collects almost every collectible in the game. Freddy then sets fire to the Pizzaplex, saves Gregory from a bunny woman who is revealed to be
Vanessa, the security guard and the only other human in the game? Who would have guessed?
But then Vanessa looks out from the top of the burning Pizzaplex.
This is weird.
3. The gateway occurs when the player collects all of Chica's or Monty's Death Salvage quest gameplay segments and heads to the loading docks. Rather than using them, the player leaves and it shows a cutscene where Gregory drives away with Freddy. Then Freddy dies due to a lack of power, but Gregory powers him back on with a car battery.
No! Now where did they put that car battery?
4. Disassemble Vanny occurs when the player goes to Fazbear Blast and finds Vanny's room. The player then goes back to the front of the Pizzaplex and has the option to pursue Vanny. The player then returns back to Fazbear Blast where Vanny calls staff bots to disassemble Freddy. Gregory escapes to the catwalks above where Freddy instructs him to go to the control room and make the staff bots turn on Vanny and disassemble her. This of course kills Vanny and Freddy kind of just dies.
Wait,
before you bash my head in with that car battery to revive my dead body, please, go kill someone. Okay.
5. Princess Quest occurs when the player finds all 3 of the Princess Quest arcade cabinets and completes them. The player will then free Vanny from her glitch trap curse, leaving behind her Vanny mask, revealing her to be
Vanessa, the security guard and the only other human in the game? Who would have guessed?
Gregory, Vanessa, and Freddy's head all escape to the Pizzaplex and sit on a hill. And then finally, 6, Burn Trap, has the player kill and salvage Chica, Monty, and Roxy, then make their way all the way down a hole in Roxy Raceway, which leads back to the ruined Pizza Sim location. Further down, the player will find the Blob, an angry amalgam of remnant souls, nothing, I have no clue. Something. Big angry wire mess of animatronics, maybe or maybe not possessed. Regardless, Freddy then says something vague about, you know, him not being him, and theorists will overanalyze it, and the player is led to a room where, on a camera, a charging station opens up, revealing a revived William Afton, back from the dead. Again.
Excuse me.
After burning Afton for the 18th billionth time, he tries to chase after Freddy and Gregory, but gets yoinked by the Blob. Gregory and Freddy escape to a hill and security breaches only animated cutscene. There's also a few audio tapes that can be found where counselors interview both Vanessa, who lies about her past, and a young child named Patient 46. Counselors eventually go missing. Remember that's going to be important. I'm going to be honest, I read all this and I barely understood any of what I just said. This game feels like a fever dream.
And that's security breach.
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Vanessa, have you heard about the hit game Among Us?
Where's Bonnie? Did he die? What does the code mean in the sister location room that I didn't mention until now? Why is Afton back? How is Vanny both is and isn't Vanessa? Why has Vanny only appear for 20 seconds in the entire game? Why is Gregory's vision glitch when Vanny is around? Why can't Freddy see her? Why didn't Freddy get aggressive when the rest of the animatronics did? Why is the Pizza Sim location here? Why did Freddy mean when he said that Gregory is broken? What was the sticky note room? Why does Princess Quest free Vanny? Why isn't Vanny freed when Afton is yoinked? How did Freddy and Gregory get out after Afton gets yoinked? Do any of these questions matter? Where's Foxy? Why do so many people have a Roxy King? Why is it called security breach when security is barely being breached? Where are all those cutscenes from those trailers? Why the comic book endings? Which ending is canon? Is the game a joke? Why does Gregory look like the crying child? What is the Blob? What did Gregory mean with his vague messages towards the end of the game with the Burn Trap ending where he said he's not him, and that he found himself there in the Pizza Sim location? Why does this game suck?
While I continue to ask questions, I think it's about time we talk about the new books. Yes, there's more. I am so excited. Yay!
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Officer Vanessa, I missed the part where that's my problem.
So, what brings you in today? It's happening again. The stories, the books, the British voices.
Tales from the Pizzaplex was meant to further expand on the story of FNaF Security Breach, especially the parts that were left unanswered, with the first book, Lally's Game, releasing on July 19th, 2022, 7 months after Security Breach's original release date. First, Frailty, a hospital janitor named Jessica, is helping people with a magical pendant that nurses them back to her old self. Jessica, however, becomes conflicted with people that she's helping and gets humiliated at prom. She then opts to save the pendant for herself rather than using it on a new patient named April. She then has a dream where the pendant is stolen from her. She returns to work and starts turning into a pile of metal and trash. Jessica dies and the new patient, April, begins to recover.
So it's just a copy of To Be Beautiful from the first Fazbear Frights? Yeah.
2. Lally's Game is, I'm just summarizing this because the thing is way too long. Couple Selena and Cade move into a ranch. While there, I think Cade finds, like, in his attic, like, a little, like, toy doll named Lally that he had from whenever he was a kid and went to the Pizzaplex way back when. And you know, he played hide and seek with it, and it had a game called Lily's Game, which was just hide and seek basically, but only 2 people. And so he brings it up to Selena, and she's like, lol, no, lies. And, you know, she dismisses Cade's like warnings about it because his friend died while playing Lily's Game. And she just like kind of chalks it up to childhood trauma. But then she ends up dying, and then Cade is left with Lally and is forced to play Lily's Game, which Lally states is only for 2. Dun dun dun.
What? Probably just introduced the Pizzaplex as part of the books. Yeah, but why Lally and why in Security Breach? This isn't supposed to make sense, that's why I'm here. Who the fuck is this guy?
3, Under Construction, features Maya Jackson and Noelle, who visit Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex for Maya's 16th birthday. They engage in a heated debate about quantum immortality and the many worlds theory, which basically states that there are infinite possibilities of like the multiverse, and all of them stem from singular choices. So like whether or not you chose to wake up at 8:14 this morning or 8:15, those are 2 different paths, and so on and so forth. And each and every single person, there's different multiverses because of them and everyone's decisions. Anyway, Maya's disappointed when the AR unit, The World Celebrates You, is closed, but she sneaks in and experiences their perfect birthday celebration. Over time, though, Maya's reality becomes increasingly grim, marked by cancer outbreaks and the birth of faceless, rapidly growing and aging jelly-like creatures.
Fazgoo.
Maya tries to help her family and friends, but realizes that she may have entered a false reality in the AR unit. As the chaos ensues, Maya is left trapped and conscious, unable to die in the nightmare AR world.
Please don't tell me FNaF has a multiverse now. Well, the books do take place in a different timeline of the games, and some of them also have different dates from other previous stories, so there's a possibility that multiple timelines exist of FNaF, each with their own different stories. So, kinda?
Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Vanessa.
Released September 20th, 2022. 1, Help Wanted, has Steve the janitor, just, like, he wants to make video games, but he isn't able to, and he gets the offer from Fazbear Entertainment, and he, of course, denies Fazbear Entertainment, but after a short amount of time, he then falls asleep and wakes up, and suddenly has a wife, kids, and a bunch of other things that he's always wanted, and now he has to make games for Fazbear Entertainment. He makes 3 games in total, kind of making fun of Fazbear's past, and then before he can make the 4th game, or finish the 4th game, sorry, he then wakes up from his false reality, and yeah.
Scott made a self-insert. Yeah, I got that.
2, Helps, is just these 2 kids, Aiden and Jace, and they start, like, you know, scaring kids in a mirror maze, and then eventually this like robot thing comes out and grabs them and says like, oh, you're lost, but then they escape from it and like partially destroy it, and then find their way into an abandoned area, and Helps reappears damaged and chases them throughout the maze. They escape on this like ladder thing, and then Helps like continues to pursue them, and Jace sacrifices himself, and Aiden is like, what? No. Helps then relentlessly pursues Jace, and Aiden escapes, and yeah.
What?
3, B7. Billy, fascinated about animatronics since childhood, adopts their behaviors, leading to isolation and psychological issues. His obsession intensifies, causing his parents to divorce. At 18, he undergoes a bunch of unnecessary surgeries, replacing body parts with prosthetics. Despite being in a relationship with someone, the extreme changes drive them apart completely. At 21, Billy awakens with the reality of his delusions, realizing he's human, and then he realizes that, the consequences of his actions and becoming a robot himself are irreversible, and he ends up in a junkyard compactor.
Please don't tell me. We're going back to robot people. While my therapist reconsiders his career path, it's time that we talk about...
One incredibly popular theory for security breach, made popular by, MatPat, is that Gregory, the player character, is a robot kid. This is due to the fact that Gregory looks like the crying child. Freddy also says Gregory is broken, and Gregory's vision is messed up when he sees Vanny. First, design choices are barely evident. Sure, it can be used, but if I randomly decide to wear a striped shirt and shorts, am I suddenly cosplaying as the crying child? Second, Freddy is a robot. To him, being hurt is like being broken, so he uses it to relate to how Gregory feels. Third, Gregory's vision being messed up is purely choice by developers. I mean, seriously, would you prefer the glitching effect? Or nothing at all to tell you when Vanny's nearby? Like, seriously.
And then there's the theory that Vanessa and Vanny are robots. They're not.
This theory was made popular by John from FNaF, not FNaF, FNaF, the channel. He argues that Vanny/Vanessa are robots, possibly Elizabeth, aka Baby from SisterLocation, due to the fact that Vanny serves Afton so easily, her appearance, again, and that there's 2 in 1 ending, alongside the VR sisters from Fury's Rage. No. Bringing back Baby would be absurd, but I'll give it benefit of the doubt. Vanny serves because she is being controlled by Afton through Glitch Trap. Appearance could be coincidence. Vanessa's soul was trapped in the Pizzaplex with Pizza Quest, and Fury's Rage was a joke game, so any evidence of it should be, kind of discarded as joke. And then there's the theory that Michael is back in Freddy, or that the puppet is Freddy, or that Henry is Freddy, or that...
No. I have a lot of respect for the theorist community behind FNaF, but some of these theories, man, come on.
People keep trying to make up a bunch of things to answer an unanswerable game. It is obvious that Steelwool did not think out the story of this game. Robot people could be possible, but bringing back every spirit from the past games for just mediocre fan service is just... It's too much, especially if Scott had any part in making Security Breach. He would know that the fans don't want that.
Anyway, back to the books.
Please tell me there's epilogues.
Yes, but it's at the end.
Yeah!
When you stalking me right, hope it's painful for me. I hope your condom expires. Hope you not deep in my, hope you impregnate my body.
December 6, 2022. 1. Somnophobia features a couple purchasing a mysterious dream sphere at a yard sale. And then flashback, there's this kid named Sam, who starts using the dream sphere to escape reality. At first, it enhances his life, but as the obsession grows, he begins isolating himself from friends and reality, trying to relive memories. Eventually, he succumbs to the dream sphere, losing touch with reality and meeting a tragic end, symbolized by Moon, the daycare attendant, leading him to an illusionary afterlife.
What? I don't know.
2. Pressure is about Luca alongside her friends Asher, Nolan, and Maddie. Role-playing in Freddy Fazbear's meets Mega Pizzaplex, Urban Legend, Role-Players, Atorium, what did I just read? VR AR game, something, I don't know. Anyway, they go to the green-eared killer scenario. Luca is haunted by childhood trauma related to a real-life murder of a friend, Kenny. Despite his reluctance, Luca is pressured into the role. As the game unfolds, Luca experiences excruciating pain and realizes that he's in a malfunctioning spring-lock suit. The others believe Luca's distress is part of the act. Ultimately abandoned by his friends, Luca encounters Earl, an employee who seems to be linked with the eerie events. Luca, driven by desperation, confronts Earl, takes revenge, and accepts his impending fate as the spring locks finally engage and kill him. What did I just read?
Fazbear making fun of their past, but then something goes wrong. Oh no. Yeah.
3.
Cleithrophobia.
Kim and her friends visit Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex, discovering an unmarked venue on the map, Beloris Fitness and Flex. In a flashback, Grady, an attraction tester, tests the attraction months earlier, confronting his fear of confined spaces stemming from childhood trauma. Ballora, an animatronic, assists players through narrow tubes. Grady's anxiety intensifies as he progresses, but he perseveres, enduring physical harm. Ballora, glitching and unable to detect him, turns aggressive, causing severe injuries. Co-workers, Rowan and Tate, find Grady, choose to prioritize their jobs over helping him, and seal off the attraction. Grady accepts his fate, grateful for Ballora's company as he succumbs to his injuries.
This is the same thing as the last one. I know, they're pointless. How many more are there left? 8.
Oh, scary! Oh, shiver my timbers! Shut up, man!
Oh, halfway there, come on. Released December 27th, 2022. Only 21 days after the last one. 1. Submecophobia. Caden, working at Freddy Fazbear's fantasy water park to support his grandmother, faces a fear of underwater mechanics to fix malfunctioning animatronics. Discovering a child's shoe and a bone, he connects them to the disappearance of Jason Butterfield. Investigation reveals that the park owner, Martin Cooper, is the animatronic Frank the Diver and was involved in Jason's demise. In a confrontation, Martin, the guy who killed Jason, drowns and the animatronics help to assist. Kane reports the evidence to police, admitting the animatronic's involvement. The park closes and someone buys it for a positive reopening. Kane is hailed as a hero.
Parallel to William Afton and, loosely, Michael Afton.
2. Animatronic Apocalypse. Robbie becomes suspicious of the new Fazbear fan club president, Zambrina, who enforces strange rules. Mr. Renner introduces a scam leading to bizarre behaviors in club members. Robbie discovers that they are burying themselves under Mr. Renner's instructions. Escaping to the police, Robbie dismisses it as a prank. Robbie confronts Mr. Renner violently, but later Mr. Renner's body goes missing. Despite this, Robbie returns to school with Zambrina gone and the Fazbear fan club regains normalcy.
Glitch Trap? Sorta?
3. Bobby Dots was split into 2 parts throughout 2 different books. Surprisingly, this is only one of 2 that actually did this. But due to Bobby Dots 1 and 2 being so close by release dates, I'll just combine them both here. Abe, a homeless Pizzaplex employee, tries to live at the Faz Tower, where there's a bunch of really nice apartments. After faking a job resume and lying a bunch, he has these assistants called Bobby Dots that are there in the tower, which are just AIs, think Google. And then they slowly start to turn a little bit evil. And so he starts investigating them and finds that the ones that he has are Gen 2s, but the ones that are in the building hidden away are Gen 1s. He then uses the Gen 1s' help destroy the Gen 2s because the Gen 2s are bad and the Gen 1s are good. And then he rebuilds the Gen 1s and those are now the new Bobby Dots and they're good. So, I don't know.
Glitch Trap infecting things and make them evil.
This one is gonna get lore heavy, so get ready.
Why is the voiceover British? The voices. Also, I got sick and didn't feel like recording the voiceover that day. Why not just record it later? I didn't feel like it.
Released March 7th, 2023. 1 GGY is about Tony, an aspiring investigative reporter getting intrigued by high scores under the initials.
GGY at Pizzaplex Games. While investigating the mystery with his friends, Gregory, going by the codename DR, Rabbit and Ellis, he discovers GGY is hacking play passes into security badges. Tony meets a hacker named Morrigan99, who turns out to be Crystal, a friend of Tony. She warns him about GGY's dangerous intentions and advises him to stop. Tony heeds the warning but later connects GGY to missing counselors. Suspecting foul play, he investigates school records. After rewriting his Pizzaplex story, Tony faces detention for breaking in. His friends, Ellis and Greg, reveal their real names and invite him back to Pizzaplex. But Tony is hesitant after discovering disturbing secrets.
Patient 46 from earlier.
There's also a few audio tapes that can be found where counselors interview both Vanessa, who lies about her past, and a young child named Patient 46. Counselors eventually go missing. Remember that's going to be important.
So Gregory's evil and he's possessed by Glitchtrap, which is why he's hacking into the Pizzaplex and doing evil things and calling himself Dr. Rabbit, right? Also why he doesn't have any memories when Security Breach starts, because he was just freed from Glitchtrap's control. How'd he get freed though? I mean, Vanny's, soul or whatever was attached to Princess Quest, and Princess Quest needed to be beaten in order to free Vanny. So how did Gregory get freed? What is his soul attached to? Balloon World, a small arcade cabinet found hidden away in the daycare attendant's room. That's why it's hidden away, just like Princess Quest was. So what, he just played his way out? That, or he hacked into the systems, found the game, and then played it while Glitchtrap was in control, and then accidentally just freed himself.
2. The Storyteller. Fazbear Entertainment executives decide to downsize and implement the Storyteller, an AI meant to make the animatronics more lifelike by giving them stories and automatic personalities, in Pizzaplex. Edwin, an executive,
who will be important later,
uncovers the Storyteller's use of a tiger animatronic head,
which will be important later,
tied to traumatic memories. Animatronics malfunction, and Edwin investigates, finding a disturbing program named Mimic 1. While trying to fix it, Mr. Burrows traps Edwin inside the Storyteller tree, intending for him to suffocate. Edwin survives, leaves a cryptic message, and Burrows fails to escape, ending the story unconscious within the Storyteller.
Glitchtrap.
Through his pants I see his balls. Hard on, keep my dick and balls inside. Wish I had a wet wipe. There's a gay side to us all. Hard on.
May 2nd, 2023. 1. Nexie, Astrid, unable to afford a buddy-matronic thing, convinces her grandpa to contribute towards buying her one for her birthday. During the creation process, a power surge and glitch results in Astrid's imperfect buddytronic named Nexie. Astrid repairs Nexie and the doll becomes fixated on achieving a perfect appearance. Despite Nexie's unsettling actions, Astrid rejects her suggestion to break into the Pizzaplex for an endoskeleton. Grandpa surprises Astrid with a new ideal buddytronic, Lexi, but Nexie violently rejects her counterpart. To appease Nexie, Astrid steals an endoskeleton and grafts Nexie's features onto herself, horrifying her peers. Astrid embraces the transformation, finding solace in her perfect companion.
Isn't that just the plot of Megan by Blumhouse? Yes.
2. Drowning. Kara and her friends visit Pizzaplex VR attraction. During a solo lesson, Kara grapples with past trauma, encountering a mysterious, degrading girl within the virtual water park. Despite various attempts to escape, the girl persistently seeks Kara's companionship, revealing a traumatic and tragic backstory. Kara explores the eerie environments, battles nightmares, and uncovers a drowned girl's tragic history in the virtual house. In a climactic moment, Kara climbs a slide, but a chilling transformation in the girl's voice leads to Kara's fatal fall. Meanwhile, Lola and Francine searching for Kara and discover her lifeless body upon deactivating the VR attraction.
That's just VR Nightmare on Elm Street. Yup.
3. The Mimic is about Edwin, who I told you was important before, and the Mimic virus. Basically, right, Edwin 40 years ago, before the storyteller, Edwin was working under Fazbear Entertainment and made, smaller animatronics and stuff like that. And he wanted to make an animatronic that would take care of his kid because he didn't have time to take care of his kid and would be a friend to his kid. So he made the Mimic. The Mimic just kind of kept an eye on Edwin's son and started copying Edwin because, Edwin needed a friend, or Edwin's son, and because Edwin's son needed a friend. And so the Mimic, after copying Edwin's son, starts to make friends with him, but then Edwin's son gets, into a car accident and dies and gets run over or something like that. So then the Mimic continues to act like Edwin's son, and Edwin is grief-stricken, and so he beats up the Mimic because, he's angry, And now, fast forward to modern day, there's people going into Edwin's factory, where the Mimic is still there, and the Mimic, because it learned Edwin's violent actions of, violence, begins to kill the people who got into Edwin's factory.
Parallel for Henry, who loses a child and then makes a copy of the child so that way he has something to linger on to. Yes, but Henry makes the puppet in the games. He makes the puppet which doesn't mimic Charlie, instead Charlie possesses it. So then it's William. No, because William has multiple children, 2 of which died to animatronics, the grandchild and Elizabeth. And Michael just kind of, regardless, none of them died to a car accident. And the closest William ever gets to making a robot that can mimic another person is the Fun Times, and even then, Baby was possessed by Elizabeth and Ballora was just there. So it's not a parallel? Exactly.
I haven't been able to find any more on Google, though my resources are a bit limited.
Professor? Where the hell are you?
Ooh, doing a stretch of 5 to 10. Apparently the authorities frown on selling meth to college students.
Yeah, apparently. You need to hang up that computer call. Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
July 18th, 2023. 1. Tiger Rock is just, I told you who would be important later. He's the masked storyteller. Basically, a couple of teenagers wander into Pizzaplex, find the storyteller tree, and then there's a new animatronic called Tiger Rock, which is the remains of the storyteller and a bunch of different animatronics, and the Mimic 1 virus, and it starts chasing them around, killing them, and hallucinations, and evil, bad, and everyone dies. So, yeah.
The Mimic is Tiger Rock. The what is who?
2. The Monty Within. Kane begins his day with various responsibilities, but is intrigued by a new arcade game at the Pizzaplex. The game involves syncing minds with animatronics for a food fight. Kane's experience with the game raises concerns as Montgomery Gator's behavior stats influence him in real life. Kane discovers a flickering yellow light in the game, which he believes connects players and animatronics. Attempting to investigate further, Kane returns to the Pizzaplex and shuts down the game. However, he finds himself increasingly influenced by Montgomery Gator's thoughts, leading him to erratic behavior and strained relationships. The situation escalates when Monty controls Kane during a basketball game and a food fight at school. Tired of Kane's constant rebelling, Monty plops Kane into a table saw and turns it on. Kane is helpless as the blades cut through his body.
What? Weren't these books made for kids? Yes. And yet here we are.
3. Bleeding Heart. Danny has a crush on Daisy and resorts to using nanobots to create tattoos to impress her. The nanobots, intended to be used only for temporary tattoos, inadvertently etch permanent designs into Danny's skin. Despite the painful process, Danny continues to get tattoos to win Daisy's affection. However, as their relationship progresses, Danny realizes that Daisy is dismissive and manipulative. In a desperate attempt to please her, Danny commands the nanobots to cover his entire body with tattoos, resulting in a gruesome outcome. Daisy discovers a disturbing scene, finding Danny's heart as the final tattoo.
Afton? Kinda?
Pretty Fazbear's Pizza.
Released October 3rd, 2023. and is currently the most recent book as of writing and recording. B7-2 is a sequel to B7 from Tales 2, Halps. 1, B7-2. Billy wakes up in the hospital surviving the events of B7, where he nearly got, trash compacted and died after turning himself into a robot because of obsession. Anyway, he gets the animatronic parts of himself removed and becomes normal and starts living a normal life. However, part of his soul and remnant and agony is still part of that, the endoskeleton parts of him that he had taken out, that he had in him previously. And so the animatronic robot parts begin to chase him around, and yeah. Anyway, his grandma dies and sacrifices herself to keep B7, the robot that wants to kill and rejoin with Billy. She sacrifices herself, and then Billy is able to escape to, it says Peru, but I don't know how accurate that is.
What? I don't know, wait for part 3.
Alone Together is about a 7th grader named Travis who begins haunted by memories and dreams related to a woodshop project involving a mechanical Turk. Google what that is, because I don't know what that is. Determined to end the haunting, he suspects a ghost tied to a Turk stored at the school. Despite facing isolation and emotional turmoil, Travis discovers the Turk and enters it, only to find his own dead body. He realizes that he was the ghost all along, haunted by the Turk he built to impress his parents. With this revelation, Travis achieves peace, no longer feeling alone. There's also a portion where Travis's grandma explains to him how hauntings work, and that ghosts may need to, find something they need in order to move on. Ooh.
So, just explaining how hauntings work for, the 3rd time with the plot of Sixth Sense? Yeah.
3, Didophobia is just, this kid stuck with a bunch of nightmarish animatronics that are created by a gas, and he, tries to escape and uncovers the truth of Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental, where he tries to, contact someone for help and escape. But then he, there's a tape that plays and tells him, dude, go back to the nightmares. Do it, but you won't, do it. And so he goes back and the cycle continues.
That's just FNaF 4 with gas! Dude, you just realized?
You're not Gregory. What are you?
Before we get into the epilogues, I'll also be giving a brief summary on the stories relevant to the Mimic. Those being the Storyteller, the Mimic, and Tiger Rock. In the Mimic, some guy named Edwin makes a robot to copy and befriend his kid. The kid dies and Edwin beats up the Mimic robot. Years later, the robot kills people, copying Edwin's beating. The Mimic program then gets copied to the Pizzaplex through an AI building called the Storyteller, but causes the animatronics to hurt people just like how Edwin beat up the Mimic. Edwin then goes inside the Storyteller to fix the Mimic program, but finds a white tiger mask. Edwin's boss sees this and kills Edwin, only to be locked inside the Storyteller himself and die. Even later, the Pizzaplex closes and some teenagers go inside the ruins of the Pizzaplex and get chased by the Mimic program, now within the White Tiger animatronic. Now?
Yeah!
In the epilogue number 1, Gil, a construction worker, unknowingly activates a deadly endoskeleton in an old pizzeria, resulting in a gruesome attack on him and his crew. In epilogue number 2, a group of high school students explores the construction site of Freddy Fazbear's mega Pizzaplex, only to discover horrifying scenes of violence and danger, with animatronics attacking and killing members of their group. Epilogue number 3 follows the surviving group as they navigate the dark and dangerous pizzeria, discovering the terrifying capabilities of the animatronics and facing the threat of a relentless Mimic. Epilogue number 4 continues the group's struggle for survival, dealing with the aftermath of a vicious attack and attempting to find a way to escape the nightmarish environment. Epilogue number 5 reveals more about the Mimic and the group's attempts to communicate with the outside world, showcasing the horror and desperation of their situation.
Epilogue number 6 explores the sacrifices made by one of the group members, Jace, as they devise a plan to confront the Mimic and secure their chances of escape. In Epilogue number 7, Lucia and Kelly face the relentless Mimic, utilizing costumes to try and outsmart the animatronic threat. However, tragedy strikes, and Kelly becomes a victim of the Mimic's deadly capabilities. Epilogue number 8 concludes the story with Lucia's daring plan to trap the Mimic in a spring-lock suit. The intense struggle between Lucia and the Mimic unfolds, ultimately leading to Lucia's victory and her escape from the nightmarish pizzeria. The story revolves around the horror and danger unleashed by animatronics, particularly the Mimic, in the context of Freddy Fazbear's mega Pizzaplex construction site. The characters face gruesome challenges and make sacrifices in their attempts to survive and escape the deadly animatronic threat. Honestly, these books were a lot better than Fazbear Frights. The stories were pretty interesting too. Definitely an improvement from Springtrap Imp Reg.
And that's Tales from the Pizzaplex. So, is the Mimic important? Yes, but...
After the rocky release of Security Breach, Steelwool was planning on fixing the game itself, but opted out to fix the base game. Rather, a small, free DLC would be released for anyone to play. It would help with fan reception of Security Breach and overall keep fans interested in the next title. The DLC would take place in the ruins of the Pizzaplex and would occur after one of the endings. Fans were, for the most part, hyped. Steelwool would be learning from their mistakes and would make something new, something better. And well, most people agree.
I'll get to why I say most in a bit.
Released July 25th, 2023. You now play as Cassie, a friend of Gregory's who is lured by Gregory's voice and now must find him in the Pizzaplex. After going through the ruins of the Pizzaplex, getting an AR Van Eye mask, which allows Cassie to see the world through a whole new way using AR, and a Faz wrench that her father had, fixing Sun and Moon deactivating nodes to actually breach security.
That's the name of the game!
Yeah! And a few other things, like killing Roxy. Cassie is finally led under the Pizzaplex, using an alternative routes that we hadn't seen in base Security Breach. She eventually gets to a room and is instructed to power off a security AI to set Gregory free. She does this, but what was trapped there was not Gregory. It was the Mimic. Cassie runs off, and depending on what you've done in the game, gets one of 3 endings.
There's more?
1, the elevator. You basically do everything normally, and then you get to the elevator at the end of the Mimic chase, and then Gregory says something about like, "Oh, Cassie, I finally was able to reach you. Oh, you'll be safe now." And then the Mimic comes on and like deactivates the elevator and kills Cassie. Maybe, probably. 2, Brazil basically just has Cassie choose an alternative route and not listen to Gregory's directions telling her to run towards the elevator, but instead run to a side route where she finds a Fredbear's Family Diner cutout. She then puts on the Van Eye mask and then sees an AR world where everyone is safe, and then probably dies. 3, the Scooper occurs if Cassie manages to find and deactivate all the wet floor bots, find Bonnie, deactivate him, and then free the Mimic. The Mimic then chases Cassie in costume, and Cassie is now able to take a 3rd alternative route and traps the Mimic inside the SisterLocation scooper room. The Mimic is then scooped, and Cassie is just kind of there.
And that's ruined.
I don't like Ruin. Sure, it was better than Security Breach and restored my faith in Steelwool, but I just didn't like how linear the game was. Alongside the fact that in order to understand the Mimic, you need to read the books, which I think is just a little, like, they're meant to expand, not to be part. Like, the books are meant to expand, they're not to be, like, a definitive part of the, series. Introduced in the Van Eye mask out of nowhere, no continuation on Burntrap and the Blob, convoluted answers to what we were asking during Security Breach, whether or not Burntrap even happened, and, in my opinion, worst of all, was the Mimic's introduction. It throws a whole new issue into if Glitchtrap is the Mimic, or the Mimic virus, or vice versa, or whatever, or if Burntrap is the Mimic, or if vice versa, or if Glitchtrap even matters, if Glitchtrap matters, if the Mimic matters, if the Mimic is the same Mimic as the books, then if it is, now everyone needs to stay updated with the lore. It needs to drop over $100 on the books just to figure things out, and then that's all to bring up the fact that, like, we don't know if the Mimic is Glitchtrap, if Glitchtrap is Burntrap now, if Burntrap even matters, if Glitchtrap even matters, if the Mimic is Glitchtrap, if Glitchtrap is the Mimic, if Burntrap is the Mimic, if... I think I repeated myself. Regardless, people now, if they want to stay updated with what the Mimic is, if the Mimic ends up being important later down the line, they now need to drop over $100 on books to read them, or watch a theorist explain what's right. If Ruin was supposed to fix Security Breach, it did it in probably the worst way possible in my opinion. Steelwool made the DLC very convoluted without many answers. Now we just have more questions, like why is the Sister Location scooper there, and why does it look like that?
I just didn't really like the DLC. I am happy that Steelwool actually figured out how to fix parts of Security Breach that were broken in the initial game and regain trust with the community, but it just didn't really do it for me.
That's nice. So, when you walked in you said something about British voices.
It's happening again. The stories, the books, the British voices.
Wanna talk about that?
No, they got to you too. Stay away from me!
Well, I'm back at the desk. Got some medication. Apparently I have something called Britophrenia. It's like schizophrenia, but I keep hearing British voices. Anyway, on to...
The Five Nights at Freddy's movie, something that every fan of the series was waiting for ever since it was first rumored to be happening all the way back in April 2015. But after a very heavy and rough development with Scott Cawthon and his issues with how Warner Bros. Wanted to release the film, Scott then shifted to Blumhouse, the makers behind movies like The Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, as well as The Purge, for further production, while Warner Bros. Repurposed the script in 2019's The Banana Splits movie, a twisted readaptation of the kid-friendly NBC Saturday morning series called The Banana Splits. The Banana Splits movie was, in my opinion, decent for what FNaF was when the script was originally finished prior to Scott leaving. It had all the basic FNaF elements, but the gore and killings were very over the top considering that it was supposed to be FNaF. Then 2021 brought Willy's Wonderland, featuring Nicolas Cage. This movie was definitely a movie. Wasn't bad, wasn't good, it had its charm in some parts, but it was obvious that it was just taking advantage of FNaF fans' growing impatience and worry for an official FNaF film. But then, after several Reddit posts from Scott regarding the state of the film, scripting, and production, on October 2022, the movie was announced, for sure, on Blumhouse's CEO, Jason Blum's Twitter.
This was a huge moment for FNaF fans. After the discourse of Security Breach and many fans leaving, a lot of them ended up returning for the announcement of the film. However, we'd still have to wait another year or so before we get any more information on the movie. But regardless, we knew it was coming.
After countless leaks for story, casting, animatronics, sets, locations, and more, the first trailer was released on May 16th, 2023, and fans were ecstatic.
Peter Malark was Mike Schmidt.
The theories for the movie were wild, and all of it was so entertaining to watch. It was actually when I came back to the FNaF fanbase after leaving when FNaF AR was announced, mostly due to disinterest. And finally, after years of waiting, 2 other rip-off movies and countless development changes, on October 27th, 2023, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was finally released.
I challenge you, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, to face me in the pole dancing Thunderdome.
This game was another joke game that Scott made to, make the film, like, get more hype for the film and to give fans a little bit something to, do on. By being the game, you get a link to an unlisted videos on Universal's YouTube page that showed a bunch of scenes from the film in, like, a sort of, like, FNaF-y way with a bunch of, like, TVs that would glitch and show you parts of the film, some of which never actually ended up showing on the film itself. But who cares? Movie time!
Just watched the FNaF movie. Gotta say, feels a lot like a fan film, which makes sense coming from Blumhouse. The ending and story isn't the best, kinda let me down to be honest, but it really just feels like a love letter to fans. But I feel that it isn't a good movie for casuals who don't know a lot about the series. It took a lot, surprisingly, from the TheSilverEyes FNaF book. It was still great to watch, and I never once felt bored. However, I do think more could have been done. It feels kind of rushed plot-wise. Could have been better with a longer runtime. 8 out of 10. I posted that to YouTube. While this was partly how I felt, my more genuine opinion of the movie began to wane as I thought more about the film. So much of it was too kid-like. It felt more like a PG film from the 2000s rather than a horror film. I began telling people about this and many of them did agree, but we also all agreed that our first watch was partly blinded due to excitement and nostalgia of a lot of FNaF elements. So we agreed we'd all watch it again.
This movie is not a horror film. It feels more like a student film. But that's okay. It does feel like the point of the movie is to be a sort of love letter to fans of the series. However, no matter how I chose to view the film, it always felt like something was missing. Some aspect of it was missing. I still felt a little let down. So, I rewatched it. Again.
And again. By this point, I was tired, just like how I am of the script. Something felt so off. Yeah, it was FNaF, but it wasn't the FNaF I knew when I was a kid. It wasn't the FNaF that I knew. And then it hit me.
This isn't my FNaF. As much as I want to see the FNaF movie as the FNaF I grew up with, ultimately, it's not. It's not the same FNaF that MatPat made a theory about it, talking about how it's a parallel to a real-life killing at a Chuck E. Cheese. That it isn't that FNaF, it's new FNaF, which I think is something that the fanbase really needs to understand with the newer games, including myself. These games, Security Breach, Ruin, the movie, all of it is not the original fan base's FNaF. Sure, like, we're never going to get back to the point of old FNaF, but there's still plenty of things that us as a community can look forward to, like new fan games that don't get cancelled, or fan games that don't have a few issues behind the creators. Regardless, I see this movie less as like a, here, old fans, here's something for you to look at and, have fun with. It's more so a send-off, like a happy, like, thank you so much for being part of this journey to the OG FNaF fans, and a welcoming open arms to new fans of the series, ones that came in with Security Breach, Ruin, Help Wanted, FNaF AR, everything. It's a sort of turning point for the series and its fanbase. And that's okay.
Side note that I just want to add here, critics absolutely tore this movie apart for what I think are two main reasons. One, the FNaF movie had very little explaining story-wise because most of the people who would be watching the film already had base level or surface level knowledge of the events in the game, so repeating it all would kind of be pointless. This type of thing is commonly echoed in reboots of other film series that skip over already known topics that most people know, like Batman's origin story, Spider-Man's origin story, etc., etc. 2. Critics were expecting more horror than what was given in the movie, which is understandable. This has led to the FNaF movie to have the lowest Rotten Tomatoes rating out of the other 2 FNaF ripoffs movies that came out. FNaF has a 31%, Banana Splits has a 60%, and Willy's Wonderland somehow has a 61%.
And with that, FNaF was... Are you
kidding me? 2023 was a massive year for FNaF. So many books, the movies, the Ruin DLC, and now a sequel to the VR FNaF game, Help Wanted. This game was basically the exact same as its predecessor, VR minigames now taking place mostly inside the Pizzaplex, with harder versions being discovered after deactivating the mask inhibitor from Ruin. Spoilers, by the way. Once you take off the mask, you're placed inside of a more destroyed Pizzaplex and have harder minigames to play. After collecting a few collectibles or getting a glitched coin from completing certain tasks in the minigames, the player will get one of 2 endings. 1, they get turned into Maskbot from Ruin and give Cassie her mask. 2, the player gets turned into the real-life princess quest and gets, trades his Van Eye mask, for the Glitch Trap plush, which then Vanny takes away and then crushes Glitch Trap. Also, side note, you play as Cassie's dad, aka Bonnie Bro, who was there in FNaF's Byte, given evidence by his favorite character being Bonnie, a findable Bonnie mask in the IRL Princess quest, and the Van Eye mask being only used by Fazbear technicians, which we are told Cassie's dad was, because of the fact that she says the Fazbear wrench looks like her dad's. The lack of Monty, who replaced Bonnie, and a character saying that the player character looks like they would have kids. I don't know, go watch MatPat or Brightoast or something.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and I am officially back. Yes! Yes! Yeah!
While I've hated parts of this series with a lot of passion, there's no denying the impact of FNaF as a whole. So, with that said, thank you, Scott Cawthon. Thank you for giving me and many others something that they could hold on to for so long, and for continuing to build the world of that series. And yeah, thank you for giving me a sort of introduction to horror, because otherwise I probably never would have gotten into a lot of horror topics. I hope you enjoy your retirement, Scott. And thank you, viewer, for getting this far into a FNaF video of a guy sitting at a desk or sitting in front of his therapist talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. Regardless, it means a lot, and I hope you enjoyed. I've been ItsSeb, and I hope to see you in the next one.
I'm recording this after, a little bit after I've edited half of the video, because I just found out about this. 30 minutes ago, MatPat uploaded his Goodbye Internet video, which I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know about it already. It's all over YouTube. I don't know how to feel about it. It's not like MatPat's dying or anything, but it's a definite turning point in the, in game theory and especially YouTube, with so many different creators leaving. But I know I've talked a lot about MatPat in these videos and really, joked about his theories because, they're just kind of absurd for the most part. But by all means, if MatPat or anyone at Team Theorist is watching this, I have a lot of respect for you guys. I watched y'all way back when people were making boob jokes all over YouTube and stuff like that. So, yeah, y'all mean a lot to me, and I'm glad Matt is moving on to more projects, because he's honestly really creative with the stuff that he's able to do, and the, reach that he has in the world. So, with that said, Scott, hope you enjoy retirement, and Matt, I hope you do too. Team Theorist for life, I guess. See you, MatPat. Thank you.